But what Kakashi didn't expect happened. The Mu Yue that stood before him vanished into white smoke, just like his shadow clone had moments earlier, and no bell fell to the ground. It's a shadow clone! Kakashi's pupils pinched. He tried to slash behind him, but the thought barely formed before a cold kunai pressed to his neck. When you use the shadow clone technique yourself, you should consider whether the enemy is using it too, the Mu Yue who had appeared behind Kakashi said. After all, I'm not always in your line of sight, am I? Kakashi said nothing. A little earlier he had scolded Obito for being reckless. Now it was his turn to be lectured. Obito, delighted to have material, rushed over to mock him. You lost sight of him and charged right in without observing. If Mu Yue-sensei had been a real enemy, you'd be dead, he said bluntly. Seeing Kakashi fail eased the sting of Obito's own defeat. If Kakashi couldn't beat him either, then his own failure hurt less. At least I took down Habshen Captain's shadow clone, Kakashi snapped back immediately. That's better than being knocked over without even touching him. Mu Yue smiled without comment. With Kakashi, Obito, and Metkai as they were now, his shadow clone could handle all three without much trouble, if he didn't hold back. He kept his strength in check, partly because Kakashi was directly answerable to Hiruzen Sarutobi. Mu Yue didn't think the old Hokage would really spend hours watching them try to snatch bells, but he wouldn't expose everything in case Hiruzen was using telescope jutsu. He had already scanned the area with Byakugan and perception ninjutsu. There were no Anbu watching. After all, Kakashi wasn't Hiruzen's son. He didn't need quite the same level of cautiousness. Because I wasn't facing a shadow clone at all. I lasted longer against Mu Yue-sensei's true body. He messed you up the moment his real body appeared, Obito argued. Maybe the one who knocked you down at first was also a shadow clone, Kakashi shot back. Absolutely not, Obito denied, then tried to rope Metkai in. Guy, you agree, right? There's no point arguing, Metkai said. Whether it was the clone or the real Mu Yue, they had failed and none of them had the bell, so they were all equal losers. Obito hadn't expected Guy to take no one's side, but he shrugged and grinned. It's good to summarize failures, but you should pay attention to your own shortcomings, Mu Yue interrupted their bickering. There's still time before sunset. You still have a chance. You're not weak compared to your peers. Try teamwork. Cooperation can make 1 + 1 greater than 2, he continued. The bell-snatching exercise was a classic test of teamwork. If the students cooperated, an instructor would ease up. How could 3 newly graduated genin possibly steal a bell from a jonin without working together? Mu Yue had started with this exercise to push Kakashi, Guy, and Obito to interact, and to remind Kakashi that his teammates weren't the same as before. Kakashi, the more mature of the three, understood the implication. He had been a chuunin for over 2 years. He knew how these lessons worked. We have no choice but to cooperate, he said grudgingly. To finish the bell-snatching mission, he would join forces. Obito, though reluctant, adapted quickly and stepped up to Kakashi. Kakashi, now you see one person can't do it. Let's cooperate. The 3 of us attack together. Let's burn our youth together, Metkai added, eager as always. Cooperation is fine, Kakashi replied flatly, but I must be the one to make the plan. Why you? Can't we discuss it together? Obito protested. Is 2 years as a chuunin not enough? Kakashi said coolly. Your setups are too crude. If Habshen Captain had taken this lightly, you wouldn't have had a chance at all. Kakashi leaned on his rank to steer the planning, and Obito faltered for a moment, wishing he'd met Mu Yue earlier. Maybe then, he'd already be a chuunin himself. But Obito wasn't convinced, so he warned, don't lose even after using your plan. Then we'll discuss it if we lose, Kakashi replied. If they failed despite a real plan, he could believe Mu Yue never intended to let them pass the drill. Kakashi then set up traps and explained the plan carefully. He'd already stationed a shadow clone to watch Habshen Captain. The figure sitting over there now was a clone. The true body had hidden. He would use a shadow clone to lure Mu Yue's clone. The true body would follow, and then... Pay attention, Kakashi ordered after laying it out. Don't do anything unnecessary. He told Obito and Guy to stay hidden and had his own true body do the same, while directing a shadow clone to bait Mu Yue. When Kakashi's shadow clone lured Mu Yue's shadow clone into the trap area, Shurikens shot out from all directions toward both clones. The shadow clone Kakashi knew its role and didn't dodge. It turned back to deliver a lightning release jutsu to delay Mu Yue. Both clones were instantly pierced and dissipated. Good tactic. If that weren't a clone, it could have been dangerous, Mu Yue said quietly to Kakashi, who was still watching his surroundings. Kakashi stiffened. Mu Yue had silently closed in again. Kakashi used body flicker to drop to the ground and create distance. Mu Yue's compliment had sent cold sweat trickling down his back. But Mu Yue didn't rush to finish him. He jumped to the base of a tree and smiled. This time's much better. You learned from the last lesson. Even under pressure, Kakashi, hardened by real battles, kept his cool. He studied Mu Yue carefully and shouted, "That's not the true body. It's a shadow clone. Don't come out yet. Wait for the right moment." He remembered Mu Yue lying on the grass earlier. Even after brushing off, the real Mu Yue would carry some dirt or clinging grass. But the Mu in front of him looked as if he had clean, brand-new clothes. Kakashi stared, trying to tell true from fake. Whether clone or real, Mu Yue was fast, faster than Kakashi had expected. "Are you really fine on your own? Have you forgotten how you failed not long ago?" Mu Yue taunted, rushing in and throwing a punch. His speed and strength were formidable. Even applying his full skill, Kakashi struggled. He took 2 punches and a kick and began to look disheveled. Coming out now will mean failure. If they stay hidden, there's still a chance to snatch the bell, Kakashi thought. Exposing everyone's positions just to beat a clone would ruin the coordinated attack and leave them no hope in a straight fight. It was better to hold Mu Yue's clone in place and let Obito and Guy continue to search for the true body. But holding Mu Yue proved harder than he'd expected. His opponent anticipated every move. Kakashi hadn't even touched Mu Yue's clothes, yet he had taken blow after blow. Mu Yue was far stronger than Kakashi had imagined, too strong for a mere schoolteacher in Kakashi's eyes. With such power, why would he teach at the academy instead of taking lucrative missions? Kakashi began to tire while Mu Yue's assault only intensified. Dust coated his body, but he refused to call out Obito and Guy. He believed staying hidden preserved a sliver of hope. Calling them would ruin everything. For the mission, he would even sacrifice himself. Thwack! Mu Yue seized an opening, knocked Kakashi's short blade from his hand, and swung a punch. Kakashi braced for a heavy blow when a fierce shout cut through the air. Leaf Great Whirlwind! Might Guy, who had somehow snuck up, unleashed a lightning-fast whirlwind kick at Mu Yue, forcing him back and saving Kakashi. Kakashi rescued, didn't grin, he frowned. "Didn't I say not to come out? If you expose yourselves now, there will be no hope. I don't train just to train. This power protects what I want to protect," Might Guy said, staring fiercely at Mu Yue. Then he added a fire release technique. A roaring fire dragon erupted and lunged at Mu Yue. When Mu Yue tried to dodge, the dragon twisted and pursued, pushing him further back. What a joke! If it's a victory gained by abandoning comrades, I, Uchiha Obito, don't want it, Obito declared as he joined in, throwing shuriken at Mu Yue. Kakashi's frown deepened. With both teammates exposed, the training looked set to fail, but he wouldn't give up without one last effort. Chapter 162. Too thin is not a good thing. Rock breathing. Total concentration breathing. Might Guy pushed his breathing technique further, drawing in massive amounts of air and rapidly condensing chakra to push his body to its limit. Leaf Strong Whirlwind. He launched himself at Mu Yue. Mu Yue dodged, but the huge tree behind him was kicked over by Guy and came crashing down toward him. Earth Release. Earth Flow Wall. Kakashi formed the signs and threw up a thick earthen wall, a carved dog's head in its center, cutting off one escape route. Fire Release. Great Fireball Technique. Obito answered at once, spitting a great fireball to seal the other way. Mu Yue was trapped, a fallen tree pressing down from above, an earth wall to one side, a roaring fireball charging from the other, and Might Guy closing in. Calmly, Mu Yue supported the giant trunk with one hand, switched his breathing technique to flame breathing, constant state, and with a single-handed seal, released his own ninjutsu. Fire Release. Great Fireball Technique. A 5-meter sphere of flame burst from Mu Yue's mouth and met Obito's fireball. Mu Yue's was stronger. His blaze swallowed Obito's, and the excess flames drove toward him. Kakashi's eyes widened. He hadn't expected Mu Yue to cast that level of fire release while holding up a tree with one hand. Seeing Mu Yue unable to free both hands, Metkai surged forward. Kakashi, unsure whether this Mu Yue was a clone or the real man, used body flicker to close in as well. With this much power, could Mu Yue be a shadow clone? Obito, in total concentration breathing, became a living furnace, constantly using flame breathing to disrupt Mu Yue. Mu Yue shoved the heavy trunk at Guy, pushing him back, then produced a kunai and traded blows with Kakashi's short blade. Obito kept throwing flame after flame, while Guy hammered in with rapid whirlwind kicks. In a brief opening, Kakashi dove low, vanished into the ground, and snatched the bell from Mu Yue's waist in a single motion. It really was the main body. Kakashi held the 3 bells in his hand, surprised but satisfied. We did it. Obito collapsed onto the ground. Facing Mu Yue was manageable with all 3 of them, but after a while, with only 2, he was spent. Metkai lay beside him, gasping. He'd been in close-quarters combat the whole time, and only barely kept going to buy Kakashi the chance to make the move. Kakashi himself was tired. He'd taken the mental strain of leading the encounter. Seeing his comrades resting, he sank to the ground too. Under the dimming light, Mu Yue's 3 disciples rested in different positions. Only Mu Yue remained standing. He smiled and sat down. Very good. You passed the training through cooperation. He'd clearly held back, but the teamwork had been solid, especially that first wave. A typical Jonin might not have survived it. With Mu Yue's true strength, had he not restrained himself, Obito and the others wouldn't have stood a chance. With Byakugan, transparent world, and perfect lightning breathing at his disposal, ambush would have been unlikely. Kakashi, Captain Habsheng, did you change clothes in the middle of that? Kakashi asked, puzzled. Mu Yue nodded. Yes, I went home for a bit and changed out of my dirty clothes. He'd gone back to cook, bathed, and changed while he was there. Kakashi's mouth twitched. He'd overthought it. Sometimes looking too closely leads you astray. Next is energy replenishment. Mu Yue rose and brought out the prepared meals, handing them around. Today we have grilled fish and tempura. Obito tore open his box eagerly, and seeing the feast inside, practically swallowed it whole. I'm eating, he announced and dug in. Timely energy replenishment lets youth burn even brighter. I'm eating. Guy opened his lunch and inhaled it with the same fervor. Watching them, Kakashi was a little bewildered. Tired as he wasn't that ravenous. Kakashi lifted his own box. The presentation was beautiful. Mu Yue had a real sense for plating. He took a fried shrimp, bit through the crisp batter, and felt the juices burst free. The combination of crunch and freshness hit him like a small revelation. For a moment he drifted, imagining a life where training and missions were absent, and he could drift in an underwater world every day. Delicious, Kakashi said before he even realized it. Looking up, he saw everyone else concentrating on eating. No one was using jutsu. He admitted he had underestimated Mu Yue's cooking. If he'd failed the training and missed a meal like this, it would have been regrettable. The more Kakashi ate, the better it tasted, and the quicker his box emptied. When he checked, his chopsticks meant nothing. His lunchbox was already clean, and he still wanted more. I'm satisfied. No regrets today. Obito lay back grinning, praised by Mu Yue and fed well. If not for Rin being absent, it had been a perfect day. Kakashi, you should thank Guy and me, Obito began, still full of himself. If it weren't for us, you'd have had to go buy food on the street. You called it a shadow clone, even though it was clearly the main body, and told us not to come out. Obito pressed the point. Kakashi defended himself. Yes, my judgment was wrong this time, but if it had been a shadow clone, your actions could have caused the training to fail. He admitted the mistake, but stood by the choice. On a real mission, charging in could mean total failure. You're just stubborn. What kind of ninja doesn't act when a comrade is in danger? Obito fired back. No matter how many times I face this, I'll always choose to act. Kakashi remembered Guy's kick when he'd stepped forward and, uncharacteristically, didn't snap back at Obito immediately. You disobeyed orders, he said calmly, finding a point to press. Mu Yue watched them with a smile, letting them spar over it. Only when the time came to end their day did he finally speak. Tomorrow, we will officially begin missions. Chapter 163, Delegated Tasks. Obito, you're late again, Kakashi said, watching Uchiha Obito hurry up, his voice carrying unmistakable annoyance. You should get up earlier instead of making everyone wait. I did get up early, Obito protested, but an old lady asked me for directions on the way. Same excuse as always, Kakashi replied deadpan. Obito had used that line since their time in Ninja Academy. Because it's the truth, Obito said, unconvinced by Kakashi's tone. Kakashi, sometimes you have to trust your teammates, Mu Yue said with a smile. I think Obito really did help an old lady and wasn't just making an excuse. Are there that many elderly people who need help around here? Kakashi asked skeptically. Maybe it's Obito's youthful inclination. He loves helping old women, Metkai mused, stroking his chin. Why do you make doing good deeds sound so weird? Obito frowned. He really had just helped someone who needed it. All right, since everyone's here, let's head to the Hokage building to pick up a mission, Mu Yue said. Most Konoha business and mission registration happen there. What kind of mission will it be? Protecting a princess? Taking down an enemy leader? Obito gazed up at the Hokage building with longing. Are you serious? An intern like you, hardly even a full ninja, getting a mission like that? Kakashi cut through the fantasy. Genin can do D to C rank missions. Interns are at best on par with Genin, so you'll only get D rank stuff. What you're describing is S rank work, only for Jonin. Kakashi, having been a ninja for several years, knew Konoha's mission system well. In his view, Obito and the others would hardly be eligible for anything above D rank. What sort of D rank missions are there? Obito asked. Finding lost cats, catching dogs, cleaning up trash, babysitting, Kakashi listed. That's just odd jobs, Obito said, stunned. Not exactly the heroic ninja life he'd imagined. You have to take missions step by step, Mu Yue said, tapping Obito's forehead. He had hopes for his class, but he wasn't itching for missions himself. He was more interested in whether his students would earn mission rewards. Why aren't those two wearing headbands? The registration ninja asked, noticing Obito and Metkai lacked the usual headbands. Interns don't get headbands, Mu Yue said. They get intern certificates that act like temporary identification. Oh, interns, then you can only take D-rank missions. Choose from these, the registration ninja replied, unfurling a scroll. Hiruzen Sarutobi had already announced that a group of intern ninja would be sent out and to be treated like newly graduated genin for mission purposes. Obito and Guy leaned over the scroll. Lost pet cat, look after a 3-year-old, clean the training ground, Obito muttered. All odd jobs, it was true. Let's take the lost cat one, Mu Yue decided after a quick look. Babysitting would take a whole day. The others were similar. 5,000 Ryo for finding a cat, Metkai exclaimed when he saw the reward. He did a quick mental conversion to meat and ramen, eyes lighting up. That's the total, not per person, Mu Yue clarified. We'll split 4 ways, Guy said excitedly. Still a lot. A bowl of ramen is 60 Ryo. 5,000 can buy over 80 bowls, Obito calculated. The work felt demeaning, but the pay made it tempting. Mu Yue let them indulge in their imagination for the moment. In practice, the captain usually got a larger share, and Konoha took its cut, but Mu Yue didn't care much about money. He planned to split evenly. Guy, Kakashi, want a contest? Whoever completes the mission first wins, Obito proposed. Yosh! Fiery youth should be full of challenges, Guy shouted. It's a boring competition, Kakashi said, indifferent. Kakashi, are you afraid of losing to us? Wouldn't it be embarrassing for a chuunin to lose to interns? Obito taunted. Kakashi bristled at the jab. I'm just worried about discouraging a newcomer like you. It's not certain who'll be discouraged, Obito lied smugly. All right, Mu Yue class cat-finding competition officially begins, Mu Yue announced, amused. Start. First to find the cat wins, Guy hollered. Kakashi's expression turned serious. Because of Obito's provocation, he created several shadow clones to search thoroughly. Guy treated it like training, sprinting around to obvious cat hangouts. Obito, seeing Kakashi use clones, made 2 shadow clones of his own. All 3 were clearly motivated. Kakashi expected to win easily, especially with a dozen clones spreading out. But less than an hour later, to his surprise, Obito returned, grinning and holding up a slightly plump orange cat triumphantly. Hey, looks like I won, Obito crowed. The cat yowled and lashed out with furious scratches. Obito reflexively let go, but another hand quickly scooped the cat up by the scruff, preventing it from escaping. What a half-baked grab, Kakashi said. shaking his head as he took possession of the cat. No matter how half-baked, I still found it first, Obito insisted. Just blind luck, Kakashi thought. Being first didn't prove anything. Nice. The mission was completed fast. Let's take another, Mu Yue said, pleased. They went to hand in the mission at the Hokage building. Disciple Metkai diligently completed the commissioned mission, gaining chakra plus 10. Led by the teacher personally, an additional reward of chakra plus 5 is granted. Disciple Uchiha Obito diligently completed the commissioned mission, gaining chakra 10. Led by the teacher personally, an additional reward of chakra plus 5 is granted. 30 chakra in about 50 minutes. That's faster than class, Mu Yue reflected, looking at the rewards. A morning of his small classes usually gave 20 chakra. A big class gave around 40. Doing just 2 D-rank missions in a morning could equal the chakra income of 3 small classes. This calculation didn't even include Shisui. If he'd joined, the numbers would be better. Still, Mu Yue decided mission rewards were only a nice supplement. Relying solely on missions would hurt other benefits like disciple cultivation and master rewards. Let's take another mission, finding a lost item, Mu Yue said, scanning the scroll. Kakashi, aren't you still unconvinced? Let's compete again. See who finds it first, Obito challenged. You won't necessarily have that luck again, Kakashi agreed at once. He didn't believe his luck would run out twice, not with his experience. Everyone's fired up, Guy said, ready to go all out. The Mu Yue class lost item competition begins now, Mu Yue declared. Kakashi sent out even more shadow clones this round, each low on chakra and useless in combat, but excellent for searching. He was confident that he and 11 clones couldn't lose to Obito and his 2 clones. An hour later, Obito again returned victorious, holding a small box and a bag. Done! Sorry, Kakashi, I won again, Obito said, triumphant. Kakashi dispelled his clones and stared. What's in the bag? Weren't lost items usually just boxes? Guy asked. Those are homemade pastries, Obito said, scratching his head. I ran into the old lady who asked me for directions earlier while looking for the item. She insisted I take them as a reward. He laughed and offered them around. Sensei, can you help me share them? After they finished the pastries, they handed the mission in. Disciple Metkai diligently completed the commissioned mission, gaining chakra plus 8. Led by the teacher personally, an additional reward of chakra plus 4 is granted. Disciple Uchiha Obito diligently completed the commissioned mission, gaining chakra plus 8. Led by the teacher personally, an additional reward of chakra 4 is granted. That's less than before, Mu Yue observed. Is finding lost items easier than finding cats? He chose a new mission, to catch a dog. As Obito and Guy set off, Mu Yue called Kakashi over. Kakashi, do you still think Obito's quick wins were just luck? Come with me. Kakashi was ready to act, but he paused, thought for a moment, and then followed Mu Yue instead. If it wasn't luck, he was genuinely curious how Obito had done it. Mu Yue fell in step behind Obito with Kakashi. With the Byakugan and the instincts honed by his root training, Mu Yue's stealth was flawless. Obito never suspected he was being tailed, absorbed as he was in finding the mission target. Light yellow fur, about 20 centimeters tall. Obito muttered the mission details as he scanned the street. He even lifted the lid of a trash can on the off chance the puppy might be inside. Kakashi bit back a laugh. What kind of dog hides in a trash can? Isn't that little Obito? Looking for something? An old man called out with a smile. A light yellow puppy around this big, Obito replied, gesturing. A light yellow pup, huh? I haven't seen one. I haven't been out much lately, but I remember Ueki wandering around. I'll take you to ask him, the old man offered. Thank you so much, Grandpa, Obito said with visible gratitude, and the old man led him to Ueki. A light yellow puppy? I think I saw one to the east of the main district, but I can't remember exactly where, Ueki said after thinking a moment. You're getting old, your memory's failing, the first man grumbled. That's basically saying nothing. Heh, Grandpa, narrowing it down from all of Konoha to just the east side is a big help. Obito replied cheerfully and thanked him again before heading off toward the eastern main district. Because Obito's search was so overt, people kept calling out to him. One old person pointed him toward another, and another helped him contact someone else. In no time at all, Obito had the puppy's location, and with a burst of his breathing technique, he rounded the corner and scooped it up. See? Still think it's luck? Mu Yue asked Kakashi. No, that's an information victory, Kakashi admitted. He had tried asking passersby for information himself before. They were nowhere near as helpful. Most people offered cursory answers or ignored him. The elderly folks Obito encountered seemed downright eager to lead him where he needed to go. If they didn't know, they'd use their connections to find someone who did. They were unusually enthusiastic. But given the same conditions, I could do better, Kakashi added. Obito had completed the mission fast, but his odd detours had stretched it to almost an hour. Kakashi had even seen Obito pause to help a grandmother down some steps. With the same flow of information, Kakashi reckoned he could finish the task in under 40 minutes. Obito's ability to change the conditions is his strength, Mu Yue said, shaking his head. If you insist on forcing same conditions, that's just not realistic. You can't have the kind of popularity he has, so same conditions don't exist. And why bother competing under identical conditions? Why not use your strengths to make up for your companion's weaknesses? Obito's a bit slow, but he has an information advantage. If you work together, your initiative plus Obito's contacts, wouldn't the mission be even more efficient? Mu Yue continued. Kakashi had no answer. With his experience, Mu Yue wasn't wrong. They returned to the Hokage building to turn in the mission. You've already completed the third mission? So fast, the registrar exclaimed. Disciple Metkai diligently completed the entrusted mission, gaining chakra plus 10. Led by the teacher himself, an additional reward of chakra 5 is given. Disciple Uchiha Obito diligently completed the entrusted mission, gaining chakra 10. Led by the teacher himself, an additional reward of chakra 5 is given. 15 points again, Mu Yue mused. It seems rewards vary at the same level depending on difficulty. How about it, Kakashi? Convinced now? Haha, I, Uchiha Obito, am Konoha's mission king, Obito boasted, hands on his hips. You're so proud after a few D-rank missions. Someone who didn't know might think you finished an S-rank, Kakashi muttered. For some reason, Obito's smug grin grated N him. You haven't done one, so how do you know I can't do an S-rank mission? Obito shot back, confidently. Obito was amazing today. Metkai chimed in, giving Obito a thumbs up. He couldn't call it mere luck. 3 finds in a row had to be skill. It's the first day of missions. I'll treat everyone to barbecue, Mu Yue declared. After 3 missions and the usual downtime, it was lunchtime. He decided there'd be no more missions. Instead, he took the students out to eat. Yay! Obito cheered. Yo, Kakashi, want to compete and see who can eat the most meat? Metkai challenged. Obito had won the missions, and Metkai wanted a win of his own. Kakashi rolled his eyes inwardly. Ever since joining Mu Yue's class, he'd been either issuing challenges or being challenged. Even eating was a contest. But when the barbecue came, the rhythm and smell settled over him and Kakashi found a rare, quiet pleasure. Everyone grilled and ate eagerly. Kakashi, who usually cooked his own food early in life and prided himself on decent skills, was puzzled. Mu Yue's meat tasted better than everyone else's despite the same grill and the same seasonings. Kakashi suspected Mu Yue had perfect heat control, making every piece impeccably cooked. If there were a ninjutsu that improved flavor, Kakashi would have accused Mu Yue of using it. After they were full, the 4 lingered, chatting. Mu Yue-sensei, you are simply my 6-path sage, Obito declared theatrically. You mean the barbecue sage, Mu Yue laughed, tapping Obito's head. By the way, does anyone have a ninja they especially admire? Obito asked, scratching his head. If it's admiration, then my father and Mu Yue-sensei, Metkai replied with uncontainable enthusiasm. Kakashi stayed quiet. He no longer had any ninja he aimed to emulate. I have someone I admire too, Mu Yue said with a smile. Oh, I'm so curious. Who does Mu Yue-sensei admire? Obito's eyes lit up. To his students, Mu Yue was kind and mysterious. A chuunin teacher who knew many jutsu, even forbidden ones, and whose strength was hard to gauge. He'd warned them never to reveal their teacher-pupil relationship outside school. Even someone as thick-skinned as Obito could tell Mu Yue was not an ordinary man. He wanted to know whom such a teacher admired. He is a powerful ninja known as Konoha's White Fang, Mu Yue said, his eyes bright with reverence. He achieved great feats for Konoha and struck fear into enemies on the battlefield. He was an exceptionally talented ninja. The legendary White Fang? Obito said excitedly. I think I've heard of him. He was amazing. I've heard of him too. Very strong, but I think he ended up sacrificing himself, Metkai added. White Fang's reputation still carried weight in Konoha. Even students knew of his prestige. Kakashi looked at Mu Yue, surprised that someone as impressive as their teacher would admire the man who had been condemned to suicide. Though he hadn't known Mu Yue long, Kakashi had already recognized Mu Yue's talent and felt he surpassed Kakashi's previous instructor. Metkai's comment tugged at something in Kakashi. Memories rose unbidden, his hands clenched. He stood up, pushed away from the table, and left the restaurant without a word. "Hey, Kakashi, where are you going? Too full?" Obito asked, puzzled. They had been chatting pleasantly only moments before. Kakashi didn't answer. He left without glancing back. "I already paid," Mu Yue said, rising. "Stay as long as you want, or go for a walk. We'll meet at Training Ground 22 at 1:30. I'm going to see what's wrong with Kakashi." "That Kakashi is impossible. Even the girls in class aren't this hard to read," Obito complained. Metkai scratched his head, equally baffled. Kakashi wandered aimlessly until he reached the riverbank. He sat on the bank and stared at the water, expression blank. Great military achievements, exceptionally excellent. If that's true, then why was he criticized to the point of suicide? Kakashi murmured to himself. A ninja must follow the rules and put missions first. Isn't that the only way to be a qualified shinobi? Is that really what you think? Mu Yue's voice came softly from behind him. Kakashi tensed, then turned. Mu Yue sat down beside him on the riverbank, as if they'd planned it. For a moment they were silent, river water murmuring beside them. "You're not the only one who remembers only the headlines," Mu Yue said quietly. "People remember White Fang's end because it was shocking. They forget the choices he made, the reasons behind them, and the sacrifices he accepted. He failed to fit into simple labels like right or wrong." Kakashi blinked, listening. Mu Yue's tone was neither judgmental nor defensive, merely steady. "He loved Konoha," Mu Yue continued. "But love doesn't always look the same. Sometimes the things that save others are the things that break the one who saves them. People are quick to condemn when they see only consequences, not causes. If you want the truth, don't let the town square be your teacher." Kakashi's jaw tightened, but he didn't interrupt. The river kept flowing. Around them, the village moved on, oblivious to the quiet conversation. "If you want to hear how he actually lived, not the gossip, come back with me," Mu Yue said finally. "We'll sit down. I'll tell you what I know." 165. Kakashi, who gained knowledge. "Captain Habshang, has anyone ever told you that your stealth is excellent?" Kakashi turned and found Mu Yue already sitting next to him, having approached without being noticed. "Concealing yourself is a ninja's basic skill," Mu Yue said with a chuckle. Kakashi watched the river, speaking without looking at him. "Captain Habshang, you know Konoha's White Fang didn't die in battle. He committed suicide. Everyone blamed him for a failed mission, and he ended his life." He stared at the water for a moment, then looked Mu Yue in the eyes. "Why would you admire a failed ninja like the White Fang?" "If you call him a failed ninja, I disagree," Mu Yue answered, refusing the label. "Why isn't he a failure? As a ninja, he let a mission that could have succeeded fail because of personal reasons. Isn't that a failure? Do you think you know White Fang better than I do?" Kakashi snapped. How could someone who'd never even spoken to his father possibly understand him better? "Maybe," Mu Yue said, shaking his head. "But I have a different view. I believe White Fang truly upheld what being a shinobi is about." "What did he uphold? Isn't the ninja rule mission first?" Kakashi scoffed, unconvinced. Mu Yue smiled. "If you're going to talk about rules, do you know where ninjas came from?" Kakashi hesitated, thinking, then shook his head. "Do you know about the Six-Path Sage?" Mu Yue continued. "The legendary figure who founded the shinobi way." Kakashi knew a little about the sage. "He's a legend, but there really was a Six-Path Sage," Mu Yue went on. "He created the shinobi sect to pursue world peace, hoping that people's connections through chakra would help them understand one another. That's how ninjas came to exist. Back then, there weren't genin, chuunin, or jonin ranks, and missions didn't involve assassination or theft of secrets. Everyone's common goal was peace. If you're serious about ninja rules, then upholding peace is the rule. From that perspective, all the ninjas today are, in a way, violating those original principles. He wasn't being fanciful. In Mu Yue's world, the origin of the shinobi was indeed for peace, and that made the rhetoric of many villains, who spoke of creating a peaceful world, more understandable. So that's how ninjas originated, Kakashi said, surprised as he looked at Mu Yue. I read history in my spare time, Mu Yue said, pushing up his glasses with a small smile. There aren't many records about the shinobi sect, but there are fragments. I won't say it's fair to demand modern ninjas follow standards from 1,000 years ago, he continued. But ninjas shouldn't be unthinking machines, just carrying out missions. They should have principles. White Fang's mission may have failed, but he saved his teammates. He stayed true to his beliefs. That doesn't make him a failure. To uphold one's beliefs, Kakashi felt a faint resonance. Years ago, he had once said something similar, that comrades were the most important thing. Meet me at Training Ground 22 at 1:30. If you speak ill of White Fang again, I'll be angry, Mu Yue added with a playful smile. Kakashi blinked. Instructor Habsheng, don't you know White Fang's name? Sakumo Hatake? Of course. Sakumo Hake, Kakashi Hatake. Could it be? Mu Yue put on a mock thoughtful expression. Actually, Kakashi, are you related to White Fang? For a moment, Kakashi couldn't tell whether Mu Yue was teasing or genuinely uncertain. If it was the former, Mu Yue had a wicked sense of humor. Just kidding. I knew you were his child. Don't be late this afternoon, Mu Yue said, smiling. Pretending otherwise would be underestimating Kakashi. Kakashi watched him walk away. The third Hokage had arranged many things. Was this meeting about the longing for a father? He wondered briefly, then headed to the library and went straight for the history section. Flipping through many old volumes, he did find scattered references to the shinobi sect. The records were sparse and fragmented, but they were enough to show Mu Yue hadn't invented the story. At 1:30, Kakashi arrived at Training Ground 22 on time. Kakashi, you're early? Want to have a handstand contest? Might Guy, already upside down, called out. No thanks, I refuse, Kakashi replied. He'd spent the morning reading and didn't feel like a pointless contest. By 1:40, Obito came rushing in, panting as he explained why he was late. Given what Obito had seen earlier that morning, Kakashi didn't question his excuse. This morning we did 3 D-rank missions total, Mu Yue said, smiling. How many do you think we can do this afternoon? 5, Obito declared confidently. Then 5 it is, Mu Yue decided. To save time, he accepted 3 missions at once. That wouldn't normally be allowed, but the clerk agreed after seeing how efficient Mu Yue's team had been in the morning. This time, Mu Yue had Obito's team work as one group. With Obito's contacts, Kakashi's speed and skill, and Guy's incredible stamina, they tore through missions. Cooperating, they completed 3 jobs in under 2 hours. By 6 in the evening, Mu Yue's squad had finished 7 D-rank missions, well beyond their goal. Obito and Might Guy were in high spirits over the rewards, and Mu Yue was pleased too, having earned 300 chakra. Kakashi probably felt the least excited. He intended to keep researching after dismissal. Everyone did very well today, Mu Yue said. Tomorrow morning, we won't take missions. We'll train at the training ground. He was thinking about taking Kakashi on as a student. That would mean another reliable hand for future missions and a steadier income. Chapter 166, Sense of Crisis. To work well with your teammates, you need to understand them thoroughly. Next, you'll fight one-on-one to learn each other's abilities. Mu Yue announced the next part of training. Yo, Kakashi! Let's have a battle that burns with youth. Might Guy sprang up and challenged Kakashi, thrusting his fist forward with a grin. Kakashi nodded. He couldn't refuse a training match, and he was curious how far Might Guy's taijutsu had advanced. It had been months since Guy's last serious spar, but Kakashi had seen him in official missions and knew Guy had improved a great deal. Kakashi, don't hold back, or I might kick you flying, Guy warned, eyes bright. According to Mu Yue, Guy's rock breathing was very close to mastery. Compared to the Guy from a few months ago, the current Guy could probably overpower his former self with a single kick. You should be worrying about how long you can last against me, Kakashi replied coolly. If Guy hadn't improved that much, Kakashi could handle him. Even more striking was Obito's progress. It had been enormous. But Guy's sudden surge was puzzling. As expected of my destined rival and best friend. Such confidence. Guy laughed, flashing his teeth. Start. At Mu Yue's command, Guy altered his breathing instantly, drawing deep oxygen and driving chakra through his body. His physical power spiked. Using the body flicker technique, he vanished and reappeared beside Kakashi, delivering a blisteringly fast whirlwind kick. Leaf whirlwind, Guy cried. Kakashi had braced himself, but Guy's speed still surprised him. He couldn't defend properly and was shoved back 2 meters. Both speed and power were far beyond what Kakashi expected. He thought he could take Guy easily. After that kick, he realized he had to be serious. Haha, Kakashi, be more careful next time. That wasn't even my strongest. Guy boomed. Kakashi's face hardened. Guy wasn't the sort to bluff. Rock breathing, total concentration breathing. Guy pushed his breathing deeper, amplifying his body even further. Leaf Great Whirlwind. His figure flashed beside Kakashi again. This time Kakashi dodged with body flicker, but Guy's leg power struck straight through a large tree where Kakashi had just stood, shattering it into splinters. Seeing the broken tree, Kakashi finally appreciated the terror of Guy's strength. He abandoned the idea of facing Guy in raw taijutsu. Quietly, he drew the White Fang short sword from his back. Kakashi's sword skills were sharp, but against Guy in total concentration breathing, he couldn't hope to gain the upper hand through melee alone. Guy was simply too fast. Kakashi switched tactics to ninjutsu. A massive earth wall erupted to block Guy's advance. When Guy leapt over it, 2 Kakashi attacked. Shadow clone technique? Guy studied the pair, unable to tell which was real. He didn't care. He attacked one clone full force. As expected, it dissolved at the impact. The other Kakashi seized the opening and hurled several shuriken. Guy focused his breathing and sped aside, evading them. As Guy prepared to counter, he sensed something and dodged just in time. A hand thrust up through the ground where he had stood, grasping at empty air. Kakashi, watching from the back as his real body, thought, he's a little harder to deal with than Obito. I tried to use 2 clones to confuse him and strike by surprise, but Guy's vigilance is even greater. The sneak attack failed. And that was the problem. Maintaining total concentration breathing chewed through Guy's stamina. As time wore on, his advantage diminished. All right, that's enough. Take a break. Next will be Obito versus Kakashi, then Obito versus Guy, Mu Yue called, halting the match. He hadn't forgotten that Guy still had Kakashi's training task to complete. A decisive knockout now would complicate the mission. Both boys nodded. During the rest, Kakashi kept puzzling over Guy's improvement. He'd always been able to handle Guy before, but now he had to go all out. Both Guy and Obito had improved astonishingly fast. Progress could be rapid under pressure, but this much advancement while still at the academy felt excessive. After they recovered, Kakashi and Obito fought. Kakashi grew even more bewildered. Obito had leapt forward again. Building on his earlier growth, Obito had refined a one-handed move, the Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson, with breathtaking speed. Kakashi barely kept up. Mu Yue again stopped the match at its peak, with no decisive victor. Kakashi believed he could have won if it continued, his experience and overall strength still an edge, but an unsettling thought had taken root. He might be overtaken by Obito and Guy. If they continued progressing at this pace, a year, or even 6 months, might be enough for them to surpass him. Kakashi could already imagine the expression Obito would wear if that happened. A fierce drive to train surged through him. No matter what, he couldn't let Obito beat him. After the 3 bouts, Mu Yue let his students rest a while longer, then laid out the next set of training tasks. Obito and Guy received routines similar to before. Mu Yue's main focus was Kakashi. Kakashi, have you learned earth and lightning nature transformations yet? Mu Yue asked. These are the 2 main ones for now, Mu Yue said, nodding. When Kakashi fought these days, he relied mostly on his swordplay and lightning release, with earth release used for support. I'm not very good with short blades, Mu Yue continued after a moment's thought, but I can teach you lightning release first. Come with me, and you can see which ninjutsu you want to learn. He led Kakashi deeper into the thick forest of the training ground. Mu Yue formed hand seals quickly and called out, Lightning release, false darkness. A massive lightning spear erupted from his hands, shredding trees in a 20-meter cone and leaving scorch marks at each break. Kakashi couldn't help but inhale sharply at the devastation. Mu Yue's level, his combination of taijutsu and ninjutsu, read as unquestionably elite jonin. Mu Yue did not pause. Lightning release Chidori. High-intensity chakra crackled in his palm, shaping into the familiar piercing form. He moved to a distant boulder and drove the Chidori through it, punching a large hole clean through the stone. Fast, focused, and devastating. Kakashi watched both techniques and judged them carefully. False darkness was far more destructive over a wide area, a mid to long-range clearing technique, while Chidori was a sudden, short-range strike that prized speed and penetration. Given his own style, Chidori suited him, but what Kakashi lacked was a powerful long-range ninjutsu. He made his choice quickly. The first one, Kakashi said without hesitation. Mu Yue smiled. Before we begin, a question. If I teach you ninjutsu, what am I to you? My guiding teacher, Kakashi answered. And what should you call me? Kakashi understood. Mu Yue wanted to be called teacher, the same kind of master-student respect Metkai and Obito had. Mu Yue seemed odd in a subtle way, unlike most of the ninja Kakashi had known. Still, he was willing to teach high-level lightning release. That alone was enough. Teacher Mu Yue, Kakashi said calmly. A system prompt flashed between them. Do you want to establish a master-disciple relationship with Kakashi Hatake? Mu Yue chose without hesitation. Of course he would accept a potential S-rank disciple who came knocking. Relationship established successfully. Current trust level, 1. Disciple Kakashi has unlocked disciple cultivation returns to master and teaching returns. Mu Yue glanced at the trust level 1, then used appraisal technique to pull up Kakashi's updated panel. Name, Chakra, 3 Tenshal. Skills, Hatake Blade Arts, Proficient, Lightning Release Chakra Nature Transformation, Proficient. Kakashi's chakra growth was underwhelming. After nearly 8 months, it had only increased by roughly 800 points. Still, S-rank potential without a bloodline is remarkably valuable. In skills, his proficiencies were middling. Hatake Blade Arts and Earth Release, Earth Flow Wall, had only just reached the proficient level. Mu Yue suspected part of it came from Kakashi still being under the shadow of White Fang's suicide, an emotional slump that had slowed his development. For Kakashi, this was regrettable. For Mu Yue, it meant there was still plenty of untapped potential to cultivate. Another system message arrived. Detected 4 or more disciples with S or higher potential. System shop unlocked and teaching skill enhancement scroll awarded. Mu Yue opened the system shop out of curiosity. It sold only 3 items, shuriken, kunai, and a training secret potion. The shop accepted the Land of Fire's currency, which pleased him. He had no need to buy shuriken or kunai. The prices matched the outside market, but the training secret potion cost 10,000 ryo per pill and was worth the price. It eliminated fatigue and hidden physical injuries. Mu Yue had tested it himself and knew its effects were potent. The shop's opening solved an immediate supply problem. Metgai's previous training missions had yielded 20 pills, most already used, with only a few left for research. Mu Yue then used the skill enhance immense scroll to upgrade his teaching skill. He wanted to see what new effect teaching would gain. The description updated. Teaching, the knowledge you impart is easily remembered and understood. Diligent disciples will mentally rehearse the learned content. The wording was a little abstract, but Mu Yue trusted the pattern. An enhancement to teaching would strengthen the transmission and retention of techniques. The lightning spear of false darkness has great power and speed, but watch your chakra consumption. This ninjutsu uses a lot of chakra, Mu Yue said as he began instruction. He suspected that Kakuzu's chakra reserves were enormous. Techniques like false darkness, earth grudge fear, and pressure damage demanded immense amounts of chakra. Considering earth grudge fear's characteristics, Mu Yue wondered if Kakuzu's chakra was not a single person's pool, but perhaps the combined chakra of 5 people. After the lesson, the system rewarded Mu Yue. You have taught the disciple lightning release, false darkness, and obtained the ninjutsu lightning release, purple lightning. Kakashi's personality and reluctance to trust meant there was no merciful critical hit reward on the first teach, but the result was still good. Purple lightning was essentially an upgraded lightning blade. It required no hand seals and had tremendous power. Mu Yue planned to teach purple lightning to Kakashi after he finished learning false darkness. Teaching purple lightning later might not trigger the teaching returns effect, but it would accelerate Kakashi's growth and shorten the time needed to obtain further enhancement rewards. 168. Quick Mission. Fake Darkness had two tricky aspects, compressing lightning release chakra to preserve its power and controlling it. When a wide area sweep was needed, the lightning spear had to be split into multiple bolts to cover more ground. Mu Yue demonstrated the technique again and continued to explain. Compression and splitting. Kakashi repeated thoughtfully, Mu Yue's words echoing in his mind. As Kakashi kept pondering, the image of Mu Yue performing fake darkness in his memory slowly blurred and folded into an image of himself. So that's how it works. He showed a sudden look of comprehension. On Kakashi's training panel, his fake darkness proficiency shot up. Mu Yue's strengthened teaching skill had a clear effect. Just a short while ago, Kakashi's proficiency in fake darkness had leapt past 20 points. Now it was Kakashi's turn to practice. He followed the steps from memory and focused his chakra. Lightning release, fake darkness, he called, sending a bolt of lightning toward a tree a short distance away. But Kakashi's bolt didn't sweep a wide area like Mu Yue's had, nor did it fell the tree, only the spot struck was scorched. Kakashi immediately fell into self-criticism, replaying his movements to find the mistake. Compressing the lightning isn't as simple as it sounds. You need to get familiar with that sensation, Mu Yue pointed out, highlighting where Kakashi had gone wrong. Explaining the principles and steps of jutsu can make them seem straightforward. Rasengan, for example, is highly compressed chakra that's then made to spin chaotically. Lightning Blade is chakra reshaped into a fine, sharp form, but in practice, they're harder to master. It's like math. A teacher hands you the formulas, but understanding and applying them takes time. Mu Yue let Kakashi try 2 more times, then retaught the technique, demonstrating exactly where Kakashi faltered. It was Mu Yue's preferred method. Let the student discover the issues, then re-demonstrate, so attention is focused on correcting those mistakes. When Mu Yue showed the technique again, Kakashi watched closely. So that's how it's solved. Kakashi nodded to himself, his opinion of Mu Yue climbing another notch. In strength, Mu Yue was an excellent shinobi. As a teacher, he was exceptional. Kakashi had been taught by many people, teachers at the Ninja Academy, several Jonin instructors, even his father. But Mu Yue's instruction felt fresh. Knowledge flowed into his mind more smoothly, and learning with Mu Yue seemed to make his thoughts more active. He found himself thinking that if he ever hit a cultivation roadblock, he could ask Mu Yue for help. Disciple Kakashi Hatake's trust level increased. Current trust level, 2. Mu Yue wasn't surprised. Reaching trust level 2 wasn't difficult. It meant the student found you dependable. All 3 of his other disciples had started at trust level 2 as well. Trust levels became progressively harder to raise, though. The gap between 2 and 3 might be more than 5 times the gap from 1 to 2, and 3 to 4 was even tougher. Mu Yue thought of Metkai and Obito, who trusted him immensely, almost as much as they trusted their parents or grandparents, yet they still hadn't reached trust level 4. That showed how steep the curve was. Kakashi reaching level 2 was partly by design. Mu Yue had cultivated an effective persona, strong, knowledgeable, a good cook, and insightful about shinobi life, all of which helped build trust. The next day, Mu Yue arranged for Kakashi to spar with Metkai and Obito. The pairing would help mutual understanding, but Mu Yue had another aim, to make Kakashi feel some urgency. His 2 formerly dead last friends were catching up, maybe even overtaking him, and Mu Yue wanted Kakashi to respond. At that moment, Kakashi realized his new instructor was a superb teacher and that he had to learn well. Mu Yue took his role with his disciples seriously. Raising Kakashi to level 3 would be hard now, but getting him to 2 had been straightforward. After the morning train, Mu Yue took the students out to do missions in the afternoon. Today we're doing more missions than yesterday afternoon. 10 at once, Obito announced excitedly as they approached the Hokage building. Are you an idiot? Even if each mission takes half an hour, 10 missions would be 5 hours, Kakashi said, exasperated. Some missions could be finished quickly with good connections and fast work, but menial tasks like trash collection usually took an hour or more. It's not even 2 yet. Even if we work 5 hours, it'll only be before 7. That's not late, Obito replied, confident. Use your rusty brain and think, can you finish every mission in half an hour? Submitting missions takes time, Kakashi shot back, his tone sharpening. Obito just smiled. It's just a lack of confidence. I won all 3 missions yesterday, he reminded them. Those 3 consecutive victories had become his favorite weapon against Kakashi. Kakashi, you want to compete again today? Let's see who completes more missions first, he challenged. I'll show you what a real shinobi does, Kakashi said, equally resolute. Metkai, of course, jumped in. How could I miss such a competition? All right then, today's goal is 10 missions. If you complete them, I'll treat everyone to my special homemade dish, Mu Yue announced with a smile. If Obito and the others truly did 10 missions, their chakra reserves would grow significantly. Kakashi was now a disciple too, so he'd get an extra share of the reward. At the Hokage building, to save time, Mu Yue accepted 5 requests at once. The clerk who registered the missions shook his head. This team completes missions so fast. At this rate, there'll be no odd jobs left for anyone else. D-rank missions were the least dangerous and often came with Konoha subsidies or were issued directly by the village. Most teams handled 1 or 2 a day, but moving at Mu Yue's team's pace, 7 missions in an afternoon, they were burning through the available tasks. What will we do when there's nothing left? One ninja wondered. Let them wait and train first, another replied. By regulation, they're not allowed to take C-rank missions yet. Kakashi thinks he can beat me on missions? I'll make sure he comes back with nothing, Obito muttered, striding along the street to find the cat. He was in high spirits. Out of the 5 missions Mu Yue had assigned, one was to find a cat and another to find lost items. He could finish those 2 in no time, and then casually take 1 more to clinch the win. With the help of a few enthusiastic old women and men, Obito had tracked the missing cat's general whereabouts. He never expected to arrive and find Kakashi already holding the cat. Kakashi, what are you doing here? Obito demanded, more puzzled than angry. Obviously, I'm here to complete a mission, Kakashi replied evenly. Obito scratched his head. He knew Kakashi had a mission too, he just couldn't figure out how Kakashi had beat him to it. Lucky you. Later I'll show you the power of Konoha's Mission King. Not wanting to waste time arguing, Obito moved on. Then we'll see, Kakashi said calmly. Obito felt his confidence wobble. Kakashi was already ahead by 1 mission, and Obito sped up. He couldn't afford to lose after boasting. Using his network, the power of the grandmas and grandpas who fed him tips, Obito tracked down the lost item mission. Thank you for the information, Grandpa. No need for cookies, dear. Glad to help, Grandma. He thanked his way to the location and saw Kakashi standing there with the lost item. Kakashi, why you again? Obito couldn't hide the unease now. Kakashi already had 2 missions done, and Obito had none. Why can't it be me? Does every mission have to be yours? Kakashi retorted. Obito was speechless and took off for the next site. When he reached the garbage cleanup spot, the trash was gone, cleaned by a Kakashi shadow clone. Damn it, he did this one too. Obito's heart sank. In the first round, he'd been totally outmaneuvered. Kakashi had finished 3 missions while Obito had yet to complete one. Guy's almost finished with the moving mission. Only the trap area cleanup is left. If you hurry, you might beat Guy. Jonin Mu Yue appeared, briefing them. Jonin Mu Yue, thank goodness you're here, Obito said, and sprinted toward the trap area. He had to get at least 1 mission this round, otherwise the burden in the next round would be unbearable. He'd need to finish more than 4 missions overall to have a realistic shot at beating Kakashi, but Kakashi and Guy weren't exactly idle. The trap area cleanup paid better than a regular D-rank mission because of the risk. Obito didn't want to trigger traps. He pushed himself and reached the site, only to find the garbage already sorted and bagged. Kakashi? He growled. When everyone returned, Jonin Mu Yue called the results. Kakashi's in the lead with 3 missions complete. Guy and Obito are tied with 1 each. Looks like I'll win this time, Kakashi said coolly, as if it were no great feat. Don't get cocky, Kakashi. We still have more missions to accept. It's not decided yet, Obito insisted. That's right, there's hope until the very last moment. Metkai shouted, giving his usual energetic thumbs up. Jonin Mu Yue smiled at the enthusiasm. The chakra rewards here were far faster than in class, After 5 missions, Obito's chakra had jumped by over 200. In a whole day of classes, he'd only get about 80. They accepted 5 more missions. Obito scanned the list, hoping for something suited to him. Only one of the 5 involved searching, the rest were chores. Still, one was better than none. He read the description and dashed off. Once again, he reached the destination, and once again saw the person he least wanted to see. "Why is it always you, Kakashi?" Obito barked. Kakashi had once again managed to be a step ahead. "Mission complete," Kakashi said, exactly the same as before. Something in Obito's gut told him this was wrong. Once could be luck, twice was suspicious, 3 times in a row was impossible. If Kakashi had been this fast, how had Obito ever beaten him before? "Did you finally figure it out?" Kakashi day. He'd expected Obito to be slower on the uptake. "Kakashi, you must have bought insider information. You're paying people, that's why you're faster than me, right?" Obito said like he'd uncovered a smoking gun. "You've been a ninja for years. You must have money saved up. You'd stoop that low?" Kakashi stared. "Buying tips for D-rank missions? Why would you think that?" he asked. "Isn't that how villains do it in novels? They use money to surpass the hard-working hero," Obito said, as if it were obvious. Kakashi couldn't help but be dumbfounded. Finally, he said, "There's no insider information for D-rank missions, and no one spends money to complete them. I was faster because I followed you and then found the objective before you." He'd been riding on Obito's coattails the whole time, tailing him to each site and then sending shadow clones to finish the chores. That was why Kakashi was way ahead. Following, that's despicable. Obito was outraged. He'd thought Kakashi had stolen his work. "There's nothing despicable about reconnaissance. You can follow me too if you're able," Kakashi challenged. "Reconnaissance and counter-reconnaissance are basic ninja skills. If you'd noticed me sooner, this wouldn't have happened. If I had the Sharingan, I would have spotted you for sure," Obito blurted, refusal and wounded pride loud in his voice. He replayed his steps in his head and realized he hadn't noticed a single tail. "Save that for when you have the Sharingan. The ninja world is harsh. If it had been an enemy following you, what would have happened?" Kakashi said, then turned and moved on. Obito's blood boiled at the thought. To have his victories stolen and then be lectured about ninja tactics, he ached for a real duel with Kakashi. If his breathing technique had reached the constant state, could he have controlled his anger? He channeled the rage into speed and went to work. By the end of the second round, Kakashi had completed 2 additional missions on his own. Guy and Obito each completed 1 more by themselves, and they finished another mission together. Kakashi completed 5 missions alone and took first place. Obito and Guy are tied for second, Jonin Mu Yue announced. "As expected from my rival, you've improved fast. You finished half the missions solo." Metkai crowed, honestly pleased. He'd picked the physical tasks to use his taijutsu, but they'd proved tougher than he thought. He ended up with only 2.5 missions finished himself. "It's fine. I just beat someone who talks big," Kakashi said, composed, hardly needing to name names. "I did 3 more than you yesterday, so counting those I have 5.5, which is more than you." Obito snapped, bringing up past scorekeeping. "If we count past missions, I've completed more C-rank missions alone than all your D-rank missions combined," Kakashi shot back coolly. Jonin Mu Yue broke up the bickering with a smile. "Everyone worked hard today. After we file these missions, I'll take you all to my house for dinner." When they submitted their reports, the registration ninja stared at Jonin Mu Yue in disbelief. "You'll have no missions left to accept for a while. You've done practically every miscellaneous job. 10 missions in an afternoon. Your efficiency is too high." "What? No more missions?" Obito demanded. He'd been counting on tomorrow to redeem himself against Kakashi, but without missions, that wasn't possible. "You finished 20 missions in 2 days. Some classes don't get that many missions in a month," the registration ninja said helplessly. "No D-rank missions left? But there must be other missions somewhere," Obito protested, still mad about the day. "Don't even think about it. As interns, you can only accept D-rank missions at the moment," the registration ninja said firmly. "Don't underestimate me. I'm top of my class at the Ninja Academy, and I've beaten official ninjas," Obito insisted. "No means no," the registration ninja replied. Rules were rules. If anything went wrong, he'd be held responsible. Hiruzen S. Arutobi, the third Hokage, wandered by after finishing his tasks and saw the group gathered. "What's going on?" he asked. Lord Third Hokage, the registration ninja, saluted and quickly reported the situation. The team, their pace, and the 20 missions completed in 2 days. 20 missions in 2 days, Hiruzen echoed, surprised. In that case, although D-rank missions are the simplest, completing 20 D-rank missions in 2 days is considered excellent among genin, Hiruzen Sarutobi said. Grandpa Hokage, does that mean we can take missions above D-rank? Obito asked, eyes bright with hope as he looked at Hiruzen. Hiruzen chuckled. Haha, well that depends on your teacher. After all, I'm not entirely sure of your abilities. If Mu Yue thinks you can handle it, I'll allow you to take C-rank missions. He didn't really expect trouble. He'd seen Obito and Metkai fight during the end of the summer special training. Both were surprisingly capable. With Kakashi, an experienced chuunin, and Mu Yue, who had root training, taking C-rank missions should be manageable. C-rank tasks usually didn't involve enemy ninja. They mostly dealt with stronger civilians or dangerous beasts. Mu Yue-sensei, you know us. We shouldn't be stuck with odd jobs forever, Obito said, turning to his teacher, hopeful. Third Hokage-sama, I think they're fully capable of C-rank missions, Mu Yue answered seriously. One of the main reasons he pushed for the intern program was to get his students out on missions. Life in Konoha felt too restrictive. He couldn't risk fully unleashing his ninjutsu during training, and a real mission was the only way to truly test himself and them. With your words, Mu Yue, I'm relieved, Hiruzen said, stroking his beard. Thank you for your trust, Third Hokage-sama. I will protect my students, Mu Yue promised. Hiruzen nodded and told the registration ninja, from now on, Mu Yue's team may take C-rank missions. Other intern teams remain under the previous regulations. Other teachers didn't have someone like Kakashi on their teams. Some of them probably couldn't match him even in a fair fight. The registration ninja nodded. Once the Hokage had spoken, there was little to argue. It was already evening, though, so they couldn't take a mission that day. Outside the Hokage building, Obito punched the air. Yay! Metkai, we're definitely the only 2 4th-grade students who can do C-rank missions. The others are still catching stray cats and hunting dogs. It's something to celebrate, Metkai laughed loudly. Our youth is leveling up. Kakashi lowered his head, quiet. He thought of old teammates. None of them would have been so loudly celebratory at the Hokage's gate. What kind of enemies show up on C-rank missions? Chuunin? Jonin? Obito asked Kakashi, barely able to contain his curiosity. C-rank missions generally don't involve ninja enemies, Kakashi replied. Wait, no ninja? Obito blinked, confused. He remembered how stiff the registration ninja had been earlier. Getting the Hokage involved felt like a big deal. He'd expected danger, clashes with enemy shinobi. Kakashi's casual answer didn't fit that picture. Mu Yue corrected. It's not that there are no enemies, just that you usually won't run into ninja. Combat-related C-rank missions typically involve subduing feral beasts or routing mountain bandits. Those don't involve enemy shinobi. Missions that definitely include ninja enemies are generally B-rank and above. Obito felt a little disappointed. He'd imagined going on a mission, defeating enemy ninja, and returning to tell Rin Nohara his heroic tale. Subduing wild beasts didn't make for the same stories. After all, he'd once killed a wild boar on a picnic in the south border forest. When they got home to Mu Yue's place, Obito's mood lifted again. He was looking forward to a proper meal. Mu Yue had Kakashi and the others sit in the living room while he prepared food. Mu Yue-sensei, let me help, Kakashi said, not wanting to be a freeloader. Help wash the vegetables, then. Mu Yue agreed. Working together built trust. Kakashi watched as Mu Yue cooked with curiosity. He wanted to know how Mu Yue made such delicious food. Mu Yue, are you back? A warm voice called from the doorstep. Minato, come in, I'm cooking, Mu Yue replied. Minato Namikaze stepped inside. Obito and Metkai noticed him immediately. Obito stared at Minato's golden hair, blue eyes, and easy smile, and couldn't help superimposing Mu Yue's face on top of it. Hello, I am, Minato began with a friendly grin. I know, you must be Mu Yue-sensei's twin brother, Obito blurted. He looks so much like Mu Yue-sensei without glasses, Metkai added. You can see the same warm smile, Obito continued. analyzing every feature with the confidence of someone who thought he knew Mu Yue best. Minato had heard the comparison before. He smiled and explained, "I'm Minato Namikaze, Mu Yue's friend." "Isn't his last name Habsheng?" Obito fumbled, trying to reconcile names and faces. He was convinced now they were long-lost siblings. "Sorry, they're my students visiting today," Mu Yue said by way of introduction. "That's fine. People say we look alike sometimes," Minato said with a shrug. He didn't mind the mix-up. If he resembled someone kind like Mu Yue, it felt like fate rather than insult. Kakashi, coming out of the kitchen, saw Minato and understood why Obito made the comparison. Their expressions and eyes were similar, though a closer look revealed differences. Minato had a slightly absent-minded air that Mu Yue lacked. "Mu Yue, do you need help?" Minato asked as he headed to the kitchen. "Perfect timing. Help me trim those vegetables," Mu Yue replied, and they fell into easy work. The two men had been neighbors and regular meal companions for a long time. Minato often helped in the kitchen. After they finished, Mu Yue told Minato about the interns. "I'm in charge of a team," he said. "I remember. But why does one of them already wear a forehead protector?" Minato asked, curious. "That's Kakashi Hatake. It's a complicated situation, but he's on my team," Mu Yue explained. Hearing the name and seeing Kakashi's white hair, Minato remembered unpleasant memories and let the topic drop. Mu Yue introduced Minato to his students. "Minato is a very strong jonin. Many powerful jonin in the village look up to him," he praised. "Wow, then he must be super strong," Obito declared. By Mu Yue's description and Minato's resemblance, he assumed Minato was nearly invincible. "I'm not as impressive as Mu Yue makes me sound. There are seniors I still learn from," Minato replied modestly. Then, slightly embarrassed, Minato said, "About today, I'm always taking food like this. I should repay you." "I already packed one for you," Mu Yue said, handing him a lunchbox. "Thank you," Minato said, grateful. He suspected Mu Yue had guessed part of the truth. He'd been taking meals often, sometimes even carrying leftovers home. He couldn't explain everything. Certain matters were too sensitive to bring up. All he could do was keep training and share what he could to help Mu Yue get stronger, so Mu Yue could stay safe. "Mu Yue-sensei, you should investigate. Maybe he is your long-lost brother," Obito suggested mischievously. Smack. Mu Yue tapped 2 fingers to Obito's forehead. "Eat. Kakashi and Metkai will finish everything if you don't," he scolded. Obito realized the two of them were already devouring food, chopsticks moving so fast they left after images. "Leave some for me," he barked and began to eat even faster. Mu Yue sent a shadow clone to deliver food to Shisui and Rin Nohara. Then he joined the others at the table. Conversation and laughter filled the room as they ate. 171. Mission Abroad. "When can we do an S-rank mission?" Obito sighed on the way to the Hokage building, thinking back to Kakashi's cutting words from the previous day. A C-rank mission that didn't even involve meeting another ninja was nowhere near what he wanted. "You can tonight," Kakashi answered. "Why?" Obito blinked. "Dream on," Kakashi said calmly. "Damn, Kakashi, don't think I'm like you just because you can't do them. Once I become a chuunin, I'll get S-rank missions for sure." Obito's fighting spirit flared. They'd been allowed to accept C-rank missions because they'd proved efficient on D-rank tasks. If they kept that up on C-ranks, surely higher-level missions would follow. "Mu Yue-sensei, we should take a tough one later to show them what we're made of," Obito said, fired up. "Preferably with fighting," Metkai added, his hands itching after 2 days of manual labor. Kakashi didn't care one way or the other. He'd done plenty of C-rank jobs. Mu Yue smiled and nodded. Obito and Guy's wishes matched his own. "Here are some of the current C-rank missions," the registration ninja said, spreading several scrolls for Mu Yue to read. "Subdue bandits in Eaglebeak Mountain. Eliminate unknown ferocious beasts harassing Gamo Town. Escort a client back to the land of rice fields." Mu Yue scanned the list. The entries that explicitly mentioned combat were all about dealing with bandits or driving off beasts. He skipped those. He wanted real combat, yes, but fighting common bandits or animals wouldn't advance him. "Let's take this one. Escort the client back to the land of rice fields," Mu Yue decided. "Are you sure?" the registration ninja warned. "The ninja world's a bit chaotic right now. The land of rice fields doesn't have a ninja village. Going abroad carries some risk." The registration ninja actually thought Mu Yue might as well accept a bandit or beast mission inside the Land of Fire, where it would be safer. But Mu Yue smiled. He'd chosen the escort precisely because it went abroad. If there were no risk, he wouldn't have picked it. "We're not afraid of risk. We're only afraid of no risk," Obito said brightly when he heard the warning. "Thank you. This is the one. I believe their strength can handle any potential crises," Mu Yue said, and the registration ninja registered them and gave the client's current location. "Are we going to be ambushed by enemy ninja?" Obito asked excitedly as they left the Hokage building. "Read fewer novels. You won't face the things you imagine on a C-rank mission," Kakashi said, exasperated. If they met enemy ninja on a C-rank mission, they could just report it back to the village. They went to the inn where the client was staying and found him, a somewhat portly, middle-aged man who greeted them with a chuckle. "You must be the ninjas who accepted the mission. You're young and promising." "I'm Numata Yoshihisa, the client. These are my wife and daughter," he introduced. "I am Hayate Mugetsu, the leader of this mission." Mu Yue nodded and gave a brief introduction. "Uncle, you have great taste. I'm the top of my class at the Ninja Academy." Obito beamed. "Top?" the girl, Numata's daughter, asked with wide eyes. "Are you really that amazing, big brother?" "Of course." Obito puffed up proudly. "How come I don't remember you being top when I was in school?" Kakashi interjected. "Huh? Was he just bragging?" the little girl wondered. "That's because you graduated early," Obito explained energetically. He rambled on about how twice being first still counted as first, how the last year carried more weight, details the little girl didn't understand, but she found Obito's flushed, enthusiastic gesturing amusing and giggled. The mood lightened. After introductions, they addressed the mission. Numata was ready to leave immediately, and because he had his wife and daughter with him, he prepared a carriage. The family rode inside, while Mu Yue and his disciples ran beside it. Compared to the speed of Shinobi, the carriage was slow, but the pace let Obito and the others relax and stare at as they traveled. That evening, as they rested, Mu Yue learned why Numata seemed so at ease. Though Numata did business in the Land of Fire, he was originally from the land of rice fields, and his whole family was from there. With war erupting between the great nations, he'd posted an escort mission in Konoha because he was worried about dangers on the journey home. "I wonder when the ninja world will be at peace," Numata sighed. "With the four great nations at each other's throats, business is going to get harder." Frequent wars made life difficult for merchants who relied on stable trade. It hadn't been 10 years since the last major conflict, and already a new large-scale war between the great nations had broken out. "You can rest easy staying in the Land of Fire with us. Konoha's ninja are a solid defense," Obito said, patting his chest. "The strength of Konoha's ninja is indeed trustworthy." Numata agreed. The escort went smoothly while they were still inside the Land of Fire. Until they crossed the border, they hadn't encountered attacks, not even bandits, which left Obito disappointed. Where was the certain risk they'd been promised? Escorting, traveling, resting, training, it felt like any ordinary mission, except they enjoyed teasing the little girl. "This is what a C-rank mission is like. Your imagination's too vivid," Kakashi said. After they left the Land of Fire, things livelier, but not in the way Obito had fantasized. Some short-sighted thieves made clumsy attempts to rob them, but they were no match. Metkai simply kicked one, and they fell flat. On the first night after leaving the country, Mu Yue was working through ideas for a combination ninjutsu when a sudden rustling came from a large tree not far from where they were camped. Leaves shook loudly. "Are they really that blatant about trying to lure us?" Mu Yue adjusted his glasses, remaining very calm. Byakugan was a convenient ability, perfect for seeing through obvious tricks. "Mu Yue-sensei, there's movement over there." Obito's voice carried across the campsite. The sound wasn't faint. Kakashi had noticed it too, coming from a large tree not far off. He was about to go investigate, but Mu Yue held him back. "Idiot, don't act rashly before you know the situation. This is an escort mission," Kakashi warned, eyes fixed on the tree. He tossed a shuriken toward the branches. Whoosh! Whoosh! The projectile sliced through the night air. A figure in a gray combat uniform, one arm exposed, dropped from the tree. Hey, are all you Konoha shinobi this timid?" You don't even dare to come see who's there, the gray-clad ninja taunted. In the dim light, Kakashi couldn't make out the forehead protector, but he could identify the village from the distinctive style of the uniform. Mu Yue-sensei, they look like Iwagakure, Kakashi said. Kakashi's tone was grave. Iwagakure and Konoha were on hostile terms. If they really were Iwa shinobi, they were certainly enemies. He hadn't expected to run into other ninja on a C-rank escort mission, just as Obito's bad feeling had warned. As the first man landed, several more in similar uniforms appeared beside him. 1, 2, 6, Mu Yue murmured after running appraisal technique over them, the information ticking through his mind. The appraisal revealed disturbing details. Name, chakra, 20,000 skills, magnet release, proficient 15,000, lightning release chakra nature transformation. Name, Gang Shime chakra, 6,200, skills, lightning release chakra nature transformation, skilled 2,500, 3,000. Name, Lock B chakra, 3,600, skills, lightning release. 2 jonin, 6 chuunin. Mu Yue frowned. That Troy was someone to take seriously. An elite jonin. A squad with an elite jonin leading another jonin and 6 chuunin could handle even an S-rank mission. Then Mu Yue realized something more unsettling. Though they wore Iwa-style clothes and protectors, all of them displayed mastery of lightning release chakra nature transformation. They weren't Iwa at all, but Cloud Shinobi disguised as Iwagakure to provoke Konoha. Kumogakure could be reckless, but they weren't lacking in strategy. It seemed the Raikage had dispatched a squad in disguise to hunt Konoha forces and stir up trouble, and Mu Yue's team had walked right into them. Fire release, great fireball technique, Obito shouted, sealing hand signs and spitting out a 3-meter fireball aimed straight at the 6-Cloud Ninja. The one insulting Konoha is mine, Obito told Kakashi and Metkai, moving to engage. Be careful, the enemy's strong, Mu Yue warned. Obito picked Lock B as his target. In chakra reserves he was behind, but Mu Yue believed Obito could still win. Strength wasn't only chakra, it was nature transformation, jutsu, taijutsu, and if Obito used full concentration breathing properly, he could put out enough burst power to prevail. Boom! The Cloud Squad were fast. They all dodged. The great fireball struck trees instead, the impact loud enough to wake Numata Yoshihisa and his family from their sleep. Stay in the tent. Don't come out. We'll handle it, Mu Yue told them quickly. Then we'll trouble you all, Numata Yoshihisa replied, taking his child back into the tent to avoid causing more problems. As the Cloud Ninja spread out, Kakashi moved. He drew his white fang short sword and slashed at the nearest opponent. Whoosh, 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 a rain of shuriken shot from the dense forest toward him. Sensing them, Kakashi retreated and deflected the blades with his sword, cautious not to commit recklessly. 7. Are there more hidden in the shadows? Kakashi scanned, alert. Ha-ha! Konoha Shinobi, your lives are over. The Cloud Ninja jeered when Kakashi dared to block Troy's shuriken. Troy's attacks were usually dodged. To block them meant you were truly exceptional, or dangerously close to death. Suddenly Kakashi couldn't move. A powerful suction force gripped him. The shuriken just now, Kakashi's expression stiffened. He had never encountered such a strange ninjutsu. The moment he touched one of those shuriken, he became immobilized. He poured chakra into breaking free, but before he could, the Cloud Chuunin lunged forward with a long sword aimed at his heart. Die! The Chuunin shouted. Windblade! Kakashi's attacker thrust his sword, and in the instant before everything went black for Kakashi, his life flashed through his mind. If there was an afterlife, his father would be surprised to see him. He was only 8, then. Blood sprayed. But it wasn't Kakashi's. A rapidly moving windblade severed the head of the Cloud Ninja in front of him. The blood spattered onto Kakashi's face and snapped his mind into crystal clarity. He looked up. Mu Yue stood there in the cool moonlight, smiling gently, and slowly retracted his outstretched right hand. He had struck. His wind release is that powerful? Kakashi thought, astonished. He had assumed Mu Yue knew only fire and lightning, but never expected such a refined wind release technique. Looks like we've caught a big fish, Troy said from the shadows, smiling slowly. Mu Yue's wind release alone proved he was no ordinary Konoha Jonin. Lightning release, false darkness. Mu Yue formed hand signs and spit out a huge lightning spear. The power radiating from him made Troy flash and reposition, But Mu Yue had not aimed at him. He aimed at the other cloud chuunin. Under Mu Yue's control, the lightning spear split into a spread, cutting down 3 chuunin instantly. Between the one decapitated earlier and these 3, the enemy forces were severely diminished. Even Lock B looked surprised at the turn of events. Obito seized the opening and landed a kick that sent Lock staggering back 2 meters. "Ha! Bad luck for Iwagakure to run into us." Obito gloated inwardly, thrilled to see Mu Yue cut down 4 enemies so quickly. "This is just a dying struggle. Konoha will lose for sure," Lock B said, resetting his stance. He wasn't ready to admit defeat. This squad was led by Troy after all, and he didn't believe Konoha Jonin could take Troy down. "Interesting. You're not sending us out to be training targets, are you?" Troy said, eyeing the 2 remaining chuunin. A kunai wrapped in lightning screamed toward the immobilized Kakashi. Mu Yue had already seen it coming and threw a flame-infused kunai in reply. The 2 blades met with a thunderous clash, rumble, and the explosion knocked down a large nearby tree. "Lord, this one is hard to deal with. Let's attack together," Gangshime said, appearing at Troy's side. Mu Yue had made only 3 moves so far. 2 had killed opponents outright. 1 had intercepted a surprise attack. Troy nodded. He had no qualms about fighting together if it meant killing the enemy. "There's another one," Gangshime added. Kakashi felt his heart drop. Whoever had been hidden until now was unlikely to be ordinary, probably another jonin. The battlefield might be 4 versus 4, but if the enemy really had 2 jonin and Kakashi himself was immobilized, the odds looked bleak. "Mu Yue-sensei, you should go. Take the client and leave. We'll cover you," Kakashi said. If there was no chance of winning, the one with the best chance should escape and complete the mission. If they fought to the death to hold the enemy, he trusted Mu Yue could break through with 1 person. "Kakashi, what are you saying? You want Mu Yue-sensei to abandon his comrades?" Obito shouted, throwing a punch wrapped in flame. Frustration made his attacks clumsy. Locke countered and pushed him back. "This is the best option right now," Kakashi answered calmly. The difference in combat power was glaring. They faced 2 jonin and 2 experienced chuunin. On their side, Metkai and Obito lacked battlefield experience. Kakashi didn't expect them to even defeat 1 enemy. "Mu Yue-sensei's youth isn't limited to this," Metkai exclaimed, driving a blast of power that kicked a cloud ninja back. He disagreed with Kakashi. First, he believed Mu Yue hadn't shown his full power, and second, he believed Mu Yue would never abandon his students and run off with the client. "I'm truly being underestimated," Mu Yue said with a faint smile, adjusting his glasses. Warm and unruffled under the moonlight, he looked as if nothing serious had happened. "Kakashi, maybe you should trust your teacher a bit more." Kakashi stared at Mu Yue's calm smile. A new thought surfaced in his mind. Maybe Mu Yue really could handle this. Whoosh, whoosh. Another rain of shuriken began to cut through the air. Chapter 173, Attack Like a Thrust from Hell. Troy swiftly pulled a specially made square shuriken from his ninja tool pouch and infused it with magnet-release chakra. Under his control, a mere wave of his hand sent the shuriken flying toward Kakashi like a rain of arrows. Unlike typical magnet-release users, Troy had developed it into a control technique. He could thread a unique magnet release into a weapon so that the moment any body touched it, the weapon became magnetized, and that body was immobilized under his control. Even though Kakashi didn't actually touch the shuriken with his hand, the weapon's magnetization transferred to his body as if he had. This subtle, devastating control had already cost many jonin their lives. Anyone unaware of it could easily fall prey. "Mu Yue-sensei, his shuriken are strange. Don't block them directly with your weapon," Kakashi warned as another volley came in, afraid Mu Yue might suffer the same fate he had nearly faced. "Fire release, Phoenix Sage Flower Claw Crimson," Mu Yue answered, spewing a torrent of flame and launching a swarm of burning shuriken. Each one burned like a small, razor-edged fireball. The fiery shuriken knocked aside Troy's magnetized blades instantly, and several of the blazing projectiles continued on toward Troy and Gangshime. The 2 flashed away to avoid the fireburst. Troy stared in surprise. His magnet shuriken had been completely intercepted. His magnet release had 2 modes, one for straightforward control, which consumed little chakra, the other to channel extra chakra and greatly increase the weapon's destructive power. He had just used the second, more powerful mode. "I'll engage directly. Find an opening," Gang Shimei said, drawing the long sword from her back. Mu Yue gave the impression of a ninja particularly strong in ninjutsu, so Gang Shimei intended to exploit close-quarters combat. In the land of lightning, Kumogakure was famous for lightning release combined with ninja body techniques. While a Konoha Hokage might not know fire release, most Kumogakure shinobi knew at least some lightning body technique. "I'll provide timely support," Troy replied, producing more square shuriken. Magnet release chakra made them hover around him, ready to launch. Gang Shimei surged forward with body flicker technique, chakra bursting from her feet. Seeing her close to engage in taijutsu, Kakashi felt relieved. Mu Yue wasn't a taijutsu specialist, but his hand-to-hand was no slouch either. As Gang Shimei closed in, she filled her sword with lightning release chakra, the blade wreathed in blue electricity, crackling fiercely. Mu Yue, without missing a beat, switched his breathing style from rock breathing to lightning breathing while entering total concentration mode. "Lightning breathing, total concentration breathing, lightning release, finger gun," he announced. Dazzling lightning flared from Mu Yue's hand. Instead of dodging, he extended his right index finger and pointed. On one side was a lightning-wrapped blade, on the other, a lightning-enhanced finger. A deafening crack of electricity split the air, and a brilliant blue burst of light erupted between them. The sword shattered instantly under the impact, and the force threw Gang Shimei backward. She plowed through several large trees before finally stopping, coughing up a mouthful of blood, eyes wide with disbelief. Her pride in her lightning body technique lay crushed. Gang Shimei couldn't believe a Konoha ninja had just performed something like the legendary Third Raikage's Hell Stab, an infamous one-finger technique said to be the strongest spear, a taijutsu so powerful even a tailed beast could not withstand it. Impossible, she thought. If that was a one-finger nuke, I'd already be dead. The Third Raikage's child hadn't managed to master something like that. How could Mu Yue? While Gang Shimei attacked, Troy tried to take advantage by sending shuriken at Mu Yue from 3 other directions to complement her frontal assault. But he hadn't expected Gang Shimei to be dispatched so quickly, and he was and more surprised by Mu Yue's speed. Mu Yue dodged the surrounding shuriken at a speed Troy could barely perceive. None of Troy's blades even grazed Mu Yue's clothes. "So fast, so strong," Kakashi muttered, unable to tear his eyes away. Mu Yue's one-finger strike had been bold, and Kakashi had worried about its risk. Instead, Mu Yue had shown taijutsu and movement capability far beyond expectation. His motions blurred, Kakashi could no longer track him, only sense that Mu Yue moved multiple times in an instant, evading everything precisely. Kakashi couldn't help but wonder, if a ninja of Mu Yue's strength was teaching at the Ninja Academy, what did the school even need? The idea felt almost cruel in comparison. Mu Yue's display could easily surpass many other instructors. "Heh, seems your companion isn't a match for Mu Yue-sensei," Obito chuckled, noticing the upheaval. "It's too early to say that," Lock B replied. He felt something off, but was still inclined to trust Troy. To take Obito down quickly and aid Troy, Lock B had intentionally exposed a weakness earlier, making it look like Obito was gaining the upper hand, bait to coax Obito into overextending so he could be finished with a single decisive blow. "Mu Yue-sensei, I'll come help you soon," Obito called, thinking he was on the verge of defeating his opponent. "Don't get cocky. The person in front of you isn't a sparring partner. He's trying to kill you," Kakashi warned. "Damn it, Kakashi. Giving orders when he can't even move himself," Obito grumbled under his breath, but he followed the advice. He adjusted his tactics, making his attacks more measured. He didn't want a mistake now that so much was at stake. He would have plenty of time later to mock Kakashi about bossing him around. "Gang Shimei, interfere as much as you can," Troy ordered. He sat expression hard, then produced a sealing scroll and summoned 2 giant shuriken, each over a meter long. He was preparing his ultimate move, though Mu Yue's displayed speed made him worry whether it could land. Troy first magnetized the giant shuriken with magnet-release chakra, then poured massive lightning-release chakra into them, turning them into high-speed, rotating giant lightning shuriken. 174. Gossamer Cloud Hidden Ninja. Just as Troy was focusing on charging a lightning-release shuriken, Kakashi suddenly felt the grip on his body ease. He could move again. Kakashi had guessed what trump card ninjutsu Troy was preparing, and it seemed Troy no longer had the chakra to keep him immobilized. Kakashi wasted no time. He used the body flicker technique to vanish from his original spot and reappear among the enemies attacking on Might Guy's side. Those Cloud Village ninja had been pressing the assault on the tent where the client was hidden, keeping Might Guy occupied. Kakashi's sudden strike caught them off guard. Under Kakashi's swift, precise swordplay, several of them were quickly cut and bleeding. Might Guy's eyes flashed when he saw Kakashi arrive. This was the opening he had been waiting for. Rock breathing, total concentration, leaf-strong whirlwind, Might Guy shouted as he pushed his body to the limit. With chakra amplifying his already fierce physicality, he unleashed a tornado of kicking force toward the Cloud Ninja. With Kakashi attacking from one side and Might Guy erupting from the other, the Cloud Ninja were suddenly overwhelmed. Kakashi's relentless slashes kept them from reacting properly, and Might Guy's sudden burst of speed sent one of them hurtling backward with a devastating whirlwind kick. Such power, the Cloud Ninja gasped, pupils wide with pain and disbelief. He couldn't accept being felled by two youngsters. Before he could collect himself, Kakashi threw two kunai into his chest as he was kicked away. Fatal strikes. As expected, my best friend, perfect teamwork, Might Guy barked, giving Kakashi a thumbs up. Having dealt with those attackers, Kakashi allowed himself a momentary relief, then turned his attention to Mu Yue's side, the true hinge of this fight. He had come to help Might Guy the moment control slipped because he didn't know if Troy could re-establish it, and he didn't want to become a liability to Mu Yue. Ninjutsu has range. Creating distance could buy them breathing room. He also wanted to secure the client and free Might Guy for the next phase. But when Kakashi looked toward Mu Yue, he found that Mu Yue didn't seem to need their assistance at all. Facing the massive lightning shuriken hurtling toward him, Mu Yue didn't dodge as Troy expected. Instead, he split off a shadow clone and began casting. Fire release, head hardship. Mu Yue's main body roared, while his clone followed with wind release, pressure damage. Mu Yue's main switched to flame-breathing constant state and unleashed head hardship. The clone spat out a high-pressure wind ball. This time, Mu Yue didn't hold back. There was no Anbu coming to check on them, and the only people left were his disciples and the client inside the tent. He could expend chakra freely. With master-level head hardship, a fire-release nature proficiency over 7,000, and the flame-breathing bonus, the technique consumed vast amounts of chakra in exchange for terrifying power. An orange-red inferno poured from Mu Yue's mouth, not neat fireballs or dragons, but a seething sea of fire that roared forward and swallowed the forest's darkness. The blast was so bright it turned night into a lurid day. Kakashi stared, stunned. He had never seen a jutsu with anything like this scale. The flames seemed intent on incinerating everything in their path. So he's strongest with fire release, Kakashi thought, reassessing Mu Yue's capabilities. Even the Sannin might not be much stronger than this. Obito and Lockbee, currently engaged on the other side of the skirmish, also halted their fighting, backing away in shock. Obito watched Mu Yue standing before the sea of flame and wondered when he might ever wield fire like that. Lockbee, who had expected Troy to win, felt his confidence shake. Troy's face went dark. He had planned to use his trump card to finish Mu Yue and let a genin escape. Now the thought of retreat filled him. Running from a fight when defeat is certain isn't shameful, it's strategy. But Mu Yue offered no mercy. After the main body released head hardship, the clone's Winjutsu fed the blaze and the firestorm ballooned outward. Gangshime, who had been ready to rush in and interfere, slammed into the advancing flames. She tried to pull back, but it was too late. She unleashed full lightning release power. But against the sweeping inferno, she was like a mantis against a chariot, engulfed instantly. Trees turned to ash in moments. Troy's lightning shuriken failed to pierce the wall of fire. As Mu Yue's sea of fire continued to expand, Troy abandoned defense. He unfurled a scroll, summoning a swarm of shuriken, and pushed his magnet and lightning releases to their limits to buy a fleeting defense. A massive explosion filled the clearing with smoke. Using the cover, Troy tried to body flicker away. He intended to retreat and live to fight another day. to make it look like Iwagakure had attacked if he could. But just then a blue electric flash streaked through the flames. Troy froze. He looked down and found a hole in his chest he hadn't noticed. Mu Yue stood before him, blue light haloing him, smiling slightly. His right hand was extended, a single finger outstretched. Lightning release, chakra mode, hell stab. Troy whispered in confusion. The speed and power felt like Kumogakure's lightning-style chakra modes. Before Troy died, he tried one last deception. Our Iwagakure will not let you off, he gasped, attempting to blame the attack on his village. Mu Yue adjusted his glasses with his left hand and tilted his head. I don't recall Iwagakure having so many ninjas who specialize in lightning release, he said with a narrow-eyed smile. They'd have had more earth release users at least. Troy's eyes widened, the words stuck in his throat as life fled him. He died with guilt for his village still burning in his gaze. Fire release, Phoenix Sage fire technique. Mu Yue formed the seals quickly and unleashed a spray of small fireballs onto Troy's corpse. The explosions shredded and charred the body until it was unrecognizable. He wasn't being overly cautious for its own sake. He wanted to make sure nobody could identify the corpse. There was no way Troy, a jonin from Kumogakure, would be an unknown figure. Defeating someone like Gang Shimei might get Hiruzen Sarutobi's attention and prove his combat ability, but beating a ninja on Troy's level would be an entirely different matter. Mu Yue's current reputation in Konoha wasn't enough for that. Better to erase any trace. When the flames died down, Kakashi and Obito reached Mu Yue's side to check on him. Seeing Mu Yue had already dealt with 2 jonin, Kakashi and Metkai moved to engage the remaining Kumogakure ninja who had been fighting Obito. With their combined effort, the foe was rapidly subdued. Worried about any further danger, one of the Konoha jonin stayed behind to guard the client while the others checked on Mu Yue. Mu Yue-sensei, are you all right? Obito asked at once. Kakashi's eyes went to the scorched, ruined figure at Muyu's feet, and then back to him. We've taken care of those Iwagakure shinobi over there, he reported, frowning. But something's off. They were dressed like Iwagakure, wearing Iwa headbands, but all of them used lightning release. None used earth release. He shook his head. That doesn't fit Iwagakure. Mu Yue smiled faintly. They're dealt with. I'm fine, he said to Obito, then nodded to Kakashi. Those Iwagakure uniforms were a disguise. Considering Iwa and Kumo are both at odds with us, it's possible Kumogakure ninja disguised themselves to try to escalate the conflict. Obito's eyes widened. They're not Iwagakure? Kumogakure is despicable. He'd been itching to teach the supposed Iwagakure attackers a lesson. He hadn't expected them to be hidden cloud shinobi. Mu Yue used the moment to teach. Each village has its own ninjutsu traditions. Iwagakure favors earth release, while Kumogakure specializes in lightning release. Tsunagakure typically focuses on wind release and puppetry, and Kirigakure is known for water release and assassination techniques. What about Konoha? Obito piped up. Mu Yue gave him a light, affectionate slap to the head. Aren't you from Konoha? You should know your own village. Obito scratched his head and laughed. I'm not really a full ninja yet, still an intern. I haven't met that many shinobi. Mu Yue chuckled. Konoha is more diverse. You'll find users of many elements here. You can also tell by clan, your Uchiha tend to favor fire release. After the explanations, Mu Yue sealed the captured Kumogakure ninja into scrolls, preparing to bring them back to Konoha. Konoha had procedures for unexpected battles during escort missions. If a client deliberately concealed danger, ninja could abort the mission. If the client had been honest but hostile shinobi appeared, especially during wartime, the mission rank and bounty could be raised, and the village would cover the increased compensation. Mu Yue suspected it would be hard to prove the identities of the fallen leaders. One corpse had been burned beyond recognition, and the other had been blown apart by his own finishing technique. That ambiguity worked in his favor. With many chonin among the dead, it would be reasonable to assume a jonin had been leading them, even if the evidence was deliberately obscured. It's safe now. You can try to sleep, Mu Yue told the man in the tent. Thank you all, Nomada Yoshihisa said, tension finally easing from his voice, though he still kept one eye half open out of habit. The earlier commotion had been loud and close. Mu Yue and his 3 disciples took turns keeping watch. The night passed fitfully. In the morning, Numata woke on instinct, head heavy from a poor night's sleep. He stepped out of the tent carefully so as not to disturb his sleeping wife and daughter, and stopped dead. To the north was a lush, living forest. To the south lay a black wasteland. Trees that should have been green stood stripped and charred. Ash and scorched wood covered the ground as far as he could see. The place that had been a forest the night before looked as if a firestorm had passed through. Is this what ninjas can do? Numata swallowed hard. He had known Shinobi were powerful. That was why he'd asked Konoha for protection, but he had imagined great physical strength or spectacular jutsu. He hadn't expected that in one night an entire stretch of forest could be transformed into a graveyard of blackened trunks. A new, unsettling thought nagged him. Were people with that kind of destructive power still the same as ordinary humans? "Good morning, Uncle," Obito greeted with a grin. "Morning," Numata managed, offering a weak smile. Even so shaken, he knew he was safe with these ninja. They would see him home. The rest of the trip passed without further encounters with enemy ninja. At worst, they ran into bandits with swords, and they reached the capital of the land of rice fields without incident. "If I ever need protection again, I'll ask for you all specifically." "You're dependable," Numata said gratefully once they were back. Konoha allowed clients to request specific ninja when possible. Mu Yue accepted the gratitude with a modest smile, then left with his disciples. "Bye-bye, big brothers," a little girl waved from the tent. "See you." Obito waved back, still buzzing. "That mission was so exciting. I wish every mission was like that." On the return, Obito replayed the night's battle in his head, especially Mu Yue's combination ninjutsu, and his heart raced in remembered thrill. Kakashi shook his head. "Don't get used to it. This was an exception. With the number and skill of the enemies, this should have been at least an A-rank mission." "So what if it's A-rank? We still won," Obito said proudly. Kakashi rubbed his temple. "We won because Mu Yue-sensei is extraordinary. That's what matters. You shouldn't be so proud of yourself." Obito bristled. "Why not? Mu Yue is my sensei. I'm proud he's strong. And I did contribute. I held off one enemy. If he hadn't been covering you, you'd have been taken out." Kakashi's expression flickered as memories of the fight returned. Obito was right. That night, Mu Yue had protected him repeatedly, taking blows and blocking attacks, while Kakashi had been a liability. Would Kakashi have done the same for his teammates? If an ally had been controlled by an unknown genjutsu, or the enemy's strength was unknown, his priority might have been to eliminate the threat and finish the mission, rather than place himself between it and a comrade. He thought back to what Mu Yue had said the day they met. True ninja uphold their convictions. The words settled in Kakashi's mind as they walked on. The trip back went much faster than the escort. A carriage couldn't match a ninja's pace, and Mu Yue pushed them on a forced march, stopping only for meals. They reached Konoha that afternoon. "You're dismissed for now," Mu Yue told them. "No training or missions today. Take half a day to rest. We'll meet at Training Ground 26 tomorrow morning." He'd hurried them home not for any official reason, but to help Metkai celebrate his birthday. Metkai's birthday was January 1st, and Mu Yue didn't want preparations to be rushed if they arrived too late. "Finally back. Traveling all the time is so boring," Obito complained, stretching. The constant movement had felt like endless running and exercise to him. Metkai, still brimming with energy, shot Kakashi a grin and offered, "Kakashi, want to have a backward running race?" Kakashi shook his head. "I refuse. I'm a bit tired." It wasn't physical exhaustion so much as mental weariness. Since that intense fight the other night, he'd been thinking a lot. Mu Yue seemed unquestionably talented. Third Hokage's trust in him had been obvious. Mu Yue had told them his idol was the White Fang, Sakumo Hatake, and from Mu Yue's actions it was clear he valued comrades above all. But Kakashi couldn't stop turning the question over in his mind. If comrade-first thinking was right, why had Sakumo been condemned after saving his teammates? If Sakumo had been wrong, why was he admired by skilled ninja like Mu Yue? Who had been at fault, his father, the village, or someone else? "You sound tired already? I could run 100 laps around Konoha right now," Obito boasted loudly. Kakashi blinked. The last battle still made him uneasy, and Obito kept bringing it up. 100 laps, huh? Fine. Loser stays silent for a day, no speaking, Kakashi said with a dark look. Obito had only been bragging before because Kakashi hadn't accepted Guy's challenge. Now he stiffened but matched the comeback. The main district was large. The distance of 100 laps was no small thing. Bring it on. Who's afraid? Obito shot back, trying to keep his voice confident. Can't we do handstand running? Might Guy asked, scratching his head with a touch of regret. Mu Yue watched his students rile each other up with a pleased smile, then turned and walked toward the Hokage building. He went straight to the Hokage's office instead of the mission administration. Hiruzen opened the door at the knock and greeted him warmly. Ah, Mu Yue, what can I do for you? A few days ago, our squad escorted a client to the land of rice fields, Mu Yue began. Once there, we ran into several ninja who were disguised as Iwagakure shinobi. He reported the mission and the unexpected attack, though intentionally omitted certain battle details, the magnet release user and some of the ninjutsu he had used. In Mu Yue's summary, the attackers numbered 1 jonin and 7 chuunin, and his team had barely managed to protect their client. Before I killed them, they shouted that Iwagakure would take revenge, Mu Yue added. But most of that team used lightning release. That's very suspicious. Lightning release on supposed Iwagakure ninja gave Hiruzen pause. It suggested Kumogakure might be trying to stir conflict between Iwa and Konoha. He also briefly considered a more devious possibility, that Iwagakure agents had posed as Kumogakure to provoke war. But he quickly dismissed it as unlikely. They wouldn't likely send such a force simply to mislead Mu Yue's squad. There are bodies here, Mu Yue continued, but 2 were burned beyond recognition by my fire release during the fight. He noted that living shinobi's memories could be accessed by the Yamanaka clan's techniques, and intact corpses could be studied to determine village origin and training. For that reason, he had been careful to finish off Troy so no usable information could be taken from him. Hiruzen nodded. It's understandable. In a life-or-death situation, you can't always preserve every body. As long as some are intact, we can learn what we need. He smiled with genuine satisfaction. If your suspicions are right, Mu Yue, you've done Konoha a great service by thwarting whatever Kumogakure was planning. Hiruzen reached for a form, filled it out quickly, stamped it, and handed it to Mu Yue. This mission's no longer appropriate as a C rank. I'm upgrading it to an A rank. In addition to the original 70,000 ryo, the village will provide an extra 730,000 ryo as a reward. An A-rank mission's pay ranged widely, but 800,000 ryo placed it among the upper tier. Thank you, third Hokage-sama, Mu Yue replied with a modest smile. Hiruzen added a reminder. The sealing technique I promised was left with Minato. When it was delivered, you were out on mission, and Minato collected it for you. Mu Yue's expression turned grateful again. After he left the Hokage building and checked the mission system, he glanced at the reward summary and couldn't help thinking, the harder the mission, the higher the reward. 177. Reward. The disciples had done their jobs diligently. Might Guy completed the entrusted mission and brought in a growth reward of plus 300 chakra, plus an extra plus 150 chakra because his teacher personally guided him. Uchiha Obito did the same, plus 300 chakra, plus 150 for teacher guidance. Kakashi Hatake also brought in plus 300 and another plus 150. The 3 students together contributed a total of 1,350 chakra. There were no extra rewards like new ninjutsu this time, but the amount of chakra was still excellent. Mu Yue remembered that his initial chakra limit had been only a little over 4,000. This mission alone had pushed it up by more than 1,000. If one only looked at raw chakra gains, spamming D-rank missions could sometimes net more. 10 D-rank missions a day would yield about 450 chakra, so 3 days of D-rank work could equal the gain from a single A-rank mission. But D-rank work had problems. It offered little real improvement to the students. It was repetitive, and Konoha simply didn't have endless D-rank tasks to hand out. An A-rank mission, by contrast, let the students train their endurance while traveling, practice cultivation during rest, and gain real combat experience when they encountered enemy shinobi. For overall development, the A-rank run was far more valuable. Mu Yue glanced at his status panel. Name, Hayate Mugetsu, Chakra, 33,200. The growth was excellent. He was closing in on his goal of 50,000 chakra. Just the rewards from his disciples and trusted missions alone had already contributed roughly 2,000 chakra to his total. Mu Yue didn't head home. He went straight to Minato's house. He was fortunate. Minato wasn't out on a mission or with Kushina. He was at home reading. When Minato saw him, he remembered the sealing technique scroll and handed the well-preserved scroll to Mu Yue. Mu Yue didn't just take the scroll and leave. He stayed to talk. Minato, if you're heading abroad anytime soon, be careful. You might run into attacks from Cloud Village Shinobi, he warned. Then relayed the same encounter he'd already told Hiruzen Sarutobi. This mission wasn't classified secret, so there was no need for discretion. Minato's expression tightened. That actually happened? He said, growing serious. This wasn't trivial. If Konoha came to believe their shinobi were being ambushed by Iwagakure, the village would surely commit more forces to confront Iwagakure, and the conflict could escalate into full-scale war. Mu Yue's report made Minato reassess Mu Yue's strength. Previously, Minato had thought of Mu Yue mostly as a chuunin-level teacher. Mu Yue had been promoted to special jonin for his teaching prowess rather than battlefield accomplishments, but the results of this mission suggested Mu Yue might be stronger than Minato had assumed. Maybe the lack of a formal jonin rank had been due to insufficient deeds or other bureaucratic reasons, not lack of talent. Minato still cared for his friend's safety. I'll be careful, Mu Yue. You should avoid missions in the grass country or the land of hot water for now, he advised. Those border regions were where Konoha, Iwagakure, and Kumogakure clashed. As war pressure rose, they'd only get more dangerous. Mu Yue smiled, nodded, and left. He had no plans to go into those volatile territories. Skirting the periphery was acceptable. He understood himself well. His current chakra ceiling was high, but his sustainability was the weak point. He could defeat Jonin as easily as he could beat his own son, but against powerhouses like the 3rd Tsuchikage or the 4th Raikage, his best option would be to use lightning breathing to escape. His chakra limit was one problem, the other was recovery speed. His chakra recovery didn't scale with his unusually high limit. The system had raised his limit through unknown means, which wasn't the same as natural cultivation. Though his total chakra was already more than 5 times that of an ordinary jonin, his recovery rate was at best a little better than a normal jonin, thanks mostly to his continuous training with the breathing technique. In prolonged fights, that put him at a disadvantage. When everyone was nearly out and furiously refining their chakra, Mu Yue's recovery wouldn't match theirs. Still, this flaw was less critical than having a low chakra limit. Situations where everyone was totally drained were relatively rare, and a higher ceiling mattered more. But it was a flaw he wanted fixed. He had considered many approaches. A symptomatic plan was to develop a sealing technique to store chakra like Tsunade's method. Release the stored chakra when running low. It only treated the symptom, but was practical. Another idea was capturing a tailed beast and using it as an internal power bank, but he wasn't strong enough for that. A fundamental solution would be to change his physiology, acquiring a senju or uzumaki constitution or a sage body to dramatically boost stamina. But changing one's body was perilous. Hashirama cells could easily cause death, and senju or uzumaki blood was hard to come by through the system. Besides, Mu Yue had no disciple slots left to test or acquire such changes. So he shifted to symptomatic measures, taking advantage of his genius-level talent with sealing techniques. Back at home, Mu Yue examined the scroll. He was surprised. Hiruzen had been unusually generous and given him 3 ninjutsu scrolls at once. They weren't all sealing techniques. One was a wind release ninjutsu. Hiruzen had left a note saying this wind release was a special reward for Mu Yue because his tutoring had significantly improved Asuma's strength. The wind technique was called vacuum sphere. Another advanced wind release I can use openly, Mu Yue thought. Even if he already knew it, a free technique was still a gain. He ignored the vacuum sphere, already familiar, and turned to the 2 sealing techniques, sealing fire seal and evil sealing method. A few memories surfaced. He recognized the evil sealing method as the technique Kakashi used to seal the cursed mark on Sasuke. From its name, he also had an idea what the sealing fire seal did. Konoha's sealing arts largely came from the Vortex clan, and Mu Yue's own sealing knowledge had come from Kushina, giving him access to pure Konoha methods. After a bit of study, he grasped the principles behind both B-rank seals. The evil sealing method isolated chakra that wasn't native to the target's body, a chakra-sealing ninjutsu meant to separate foreign energy. The sealing fire seal was different. It didn't seal chakra itself, but could seal flames that were the product of chakra nature transformation. Before transmigrating, Mu Yue had often wondered in the anime why Shinobi didn't just seal ninjutsu into scrolls and use them as ready spells. After learning sealing arts, he understood the difficulty. If you sealed a fire release, great fireball technique, into a scroll with the sealing fire seal, what you'd release wouldn't be a mobile great fireball, but rather a stationary ball of flame, useless in many combat situations. Yet some seals could indeed store and then release ninjutsu. The Uchiha transcription seal could trap eye techniques. Itachi put Amaterasu in Sasuke's eyes. Madara sealed Izanagi in his own eyes. From Mu Yue's knowledge, that ability was likely tied to the Sharingan and unavailable to ordinary shinobi. Though neither of these seals was top tier, Mu Yue was satisfied. They gave him room to learn and improve his sealing knowledge. Extracting and refining the chakra isolation effect of the evil sealing method would help with his symptomatic chakra problem. The yin seal's way of sealing chakra was essentially another form of isolation. Mu Yue spent the rest of the day studying. He focused on the evil sealing method first, wanting to master chakra isolation quickly. After nearly 8 months of practicing sealing arts, he wasn't a novice anymore. 2 hours of dedicated study pushed his proficiency with the evil sealing method to 50. He didn't plan to waste a proficiency scroll on a B-rank seal. Those scrolls were better saved for the likes of the 4 symbols seal. If he wanted to learn the our symbols seal, a technique stronger than the 5 elements seal and the one Konoha used to seal the 9 tails, he would likely need Minato and Kushina's help. Hiruzen probably wouldn't hand that one over. Within the Vortex sealing system, the 4 symbols seal was top tier. Seals beyond it either had clan-only restrictions, like the adamantine sealing chains, or terrible costs, like the corpse reanimation seal or the reverse 4 symbols seal, both of which demanded the caster's life. Before sleeping, Mu Yue reviewed what he'd learned from the out-of-village mission. His strength had been more effective than he'd imagined. Even a bloodline limit jonin with 20,000 chakra could be easily wiped out by him. In that battle, he'd held back a lot. If he'd wanted, he could have activated lightning breathing and the mark to kill everyone instantly. The speed lightning breathing granted would have made it easy. He'd been training his combat ability, so he hadn't finished them off outright. Maybe because of the Byakugan and the transparent world, even though it had been his first time killing, Mu Yue felt no panic, and afterward, no strong emotion either. The enemy was too weak, he told himself. If their chakra had been doubled, it would have been about right. Putting aside chakra recovery, Mu Yue estimated his current strength was comparable to Minato and the 4th Raikage. He wanted a real fight with shinobi of that caliber, but for now, it wasn't wise to expose himself to Minato, and a solo encounter with the 4th Raikage would be nearly impossible since the 4th was the 3rd Raikage's son and rarely alone. If they ever met in earnest, things would be complicated. 178. Friendship between men. I haven't seen Obito in a while. I wonder how he's doing. Rin Nohara walked home after training, a crease of worry between her brows. Ninja school never sugarcoated the world outside. The dangers of missions and battlefields were made painfully clear. But hearing teachers talk about sacrifices and deaths was different from losing someone close on a mission. Since she learned that one of Kakashi's teammates had died, Rin truly felt the cruelty of being a ninja. And with Obito's tendency to throw himself headfirst into things, she couldn't help worrying he might get hurt. As she thought that, she spotted a few familiar figures ahead. Obito, Kakashi, Guy. Why are you all together? She called. Obito looked up in surprise. Remembering the bet, he could only gesture wildly and make odd sounds instead of speaking. Even Rin, who knew Obito well, was taken aback by his strange behavior and didn't know what to make of it. Kakashi, what's wrong with Obito? She asked, turning to the normally steady Kakashi for an explanation. Kakashi didn't answer. He simply met her eyes and stayed silent, which made Rin feel even stranger. Had whatever silenced Obito spread to Kakashi? Might Guy answered with a booming laugh. Because they both lost to me in a running race, so they can't speak today. They had just returned from a mission and were exhausted, and running 100 laps took real stamina. Guy, with his superior endurance, had finished first. Rin blinked. The punishment for losing was forfeiting speech for a day? That sounded childish. You're intern ninjas now, right? Aren't you supposed to be on missions? Why would you be racing Kakashi? Rin asked, puzzled. We just finished a mission and came back, Guy said. Obito fidgeted desperately, wanting to tell Rin about the mission and the things he'd seen, especially Kakashi's embarrassing moments. He seethed silently. Kakashi had refused Guy's challenge, but the moment Obito mentioned it, Kakashi had agreed. That felt like targeting. Maybe he knew I'd tell Rin about him, Obito thought, fury building. Just wait until tomorrow. I'll expose him. Rin smiled, interpreting the scene differently. Oh, I see. You're so close to Kakashi you come looking for him to race as soon as you get back. No, that's not it. Guy is our teammate. Obito blurted in his head, panic rising, as Rin's smile made him fear a misunderstanding. He wished he knew sign language so he could explain everything at speed. Guy grinned broadly. Of course, youth and friendship, nothing beats it, Rin sighed softly. The bond between boys is really something, she said, relieved. Despite the odd stunt, she liked that they were together. Even if she wasn't there, Kakashi was with Obito. She trusted Kakashi would take care of him. Obito was fuming inside. He blamed Kakashi for everything, especially for keeping Rin from being in the same grouping as them. If not for Kakashi, maybe he, Guy, and Rin would all be together. He raised his hand to wave goodbye to Rin, then put it down. He'd lost the bet. He had to accept being silent for today. The next morning, Sensei Mu Yue gathered his students at Training Ground 26. The meeting was set for 8 a.m. Kakashi and Guy arrived around 7:50. Obito slunk in at 8:10. You're late again, Kakashi said flatly. That's because, Obito began indignantly, but Mu Yue interrupted. Before we start training, a quick debrief on our last mission, Mu Yue said. Begin. Obito didn't hold back. Kakashi got reckless and ended up controlled for over 10 minutes. If I hadn't warned you, you'd have already walked into the enemy's trap, Kakashi shot back. Snap! Snap! 2 sharp taps landed on their heads. Both Obito and Kakashi instinctively clutched their skulls. I asked you to summarize yourselves, not each other, Mu Yue said with a smile as he lowered his hand. Now focus. Under Mu Yue's quiet authority, their bickering stopped, and they each considered their own faults. My strength and explosiveness aren't enough, Metkai said first. I need more training to master the 8 gates as soon as possible. Guy's regimen wasn't as varied as Kakashi's or Obito's. He concentrated solely on Taijutsu, centering on his breathing techniques and the 8 gates. There was still a long road ahead. 179. Explosive Kakashi Gold Coin. Now that I've grasped the breathing technique, I really can speed up progress with the 8 gates, Mu Yue said, nodding. Might Guy was still far from reaching the constant state, so for the moment, it made more sense to focus on the 8 gates. The breathing technique and the 8 gates complemented one another. The breathing fortifies the body, and the stronger the body, the more effective the 8 gates become. I'm not calm enough in battle. I tend to act on impulse, Obito admitted after thinking it over. With Mu Yue prompting him to reflect, he was able to face his own shortcoming. He had always known this, which was why his fights with Might Guy ended with more losses than wins. He got carried away and fought without strategy. Since you recognize it, be more careful in future fights, Mu Yue said, stroking Obito's hair. Obito's performance was unstable, sometimes brilliant enough to snatch victory from a disadvantage. More often he squandered his chances. I misjudged your strength, teacher, Kakashi said, recalling the ambush. Frankly, he thought his actions during that mission hadn't been terrible. Being controlled had been almost unavoidable. In that situation, Kakashi felt even a Konoha Jonin would have fallen to the same trick. The enemy wasn't ordinary, and it had been a sneak attack. How could he have blocked it, and with what? After escaping, he'd quickly helped his teammates finish off the attackers, freeing up combat power. His only real mistake, he thought, had been underestimating Mu Yue. He hadn't realized Mu Yue could deal with 2 of the enemy Jonin while protecting him. We've only known each other a short time, Mu Yue said with a gentle smile. We'll have plenty of time to learn about one another. Mu Yue-sensei, did you use your full strength in that fight? Kakashi asked after a pause. Raised by Sakumo Hatake, Kakashi had a wider view than Obito or Guy. He had a better feel for the true limits of powerful fighters. Looking back at the encounter, several things puzzled him. Mu Yue's initial techniques and his final ones felt like different tiers. The early lightning and wind techniques that quickly killed a chuunin were impressive, but nothing like the combined fire-wind jutsu used later. Kakashi suspected Mu Yue was holding back. Perhaps his strength was even greater than he'd shown, but he'd tempered it to train them, not to slaughter everyone outright. Guess, Mu Yue replied with a smile. Kakashi fell silent. Of course he didn't use his full strength, Obito blurted. If he'd started with that fire release, everyone would have been roasted ages ago. Even if Mu Yue told him later he was the reincarnation of the Sage of Six Paths, Obito wouldn't be surprised. Mu Yue was omnipotent to his mind. That's right. Here's a candy as a reward. Mu Yue tossed Obito a piece of candy. Obito caught it and grinned like an idiot. He was clearly the one who understood Mu Yue best. Mu Yue-sensei, you're a teacher at the Ninja Academy, right? Kakashi asked once Mu Yue confirmed. Kakashi, why do you always ask strange questions? Obito grumbled. What else could he be if not a teacher at the school? You want to know why I teach at the academy with that kind of strength, don't you? Mu Yue said with a laugh. Kakashi nodded. There are many reasons, but mainly I like teaching. The happiest thing for me is seeing my students grow stronger, Mu Yue answered. Kakashi had expected a more complicated motive. The simplicity of Mu Yue's reply took him by surprise. All right, summary complete. Everyone, start cultivating. We'll train this morning and go on a mission this afternoon. Mu Yue began assigning cultivation tasks to each disciple. You've mostly mastered fake darkness. I have a good ninjutsu to teach you, Mu Yue told Kakashi. He gathered chakra, quickly completing nature and form transformation. A dazzling purple lightning coalesced in his palm. That looks like the Chidori from that day, Kakashi thought. This new jutsu felt familiar. It's an imp-roved version of Chidori, Mu Yue confirmed. In the original timeline, Kakashi's Chidori evolved into the lightning cutter, and after losing his Sharingan, he refined it into purple lightning. Here, Kakashi would learn purple lightning in one leap, decades ahead of the original world's schedule. Compared to Chidori, purple lightning needs no hand seals, has greater power, and is more flexible, although it's slightly slower, Mu Yue explained. He demonstrated. The purple lightning could slice bedrock as if it were tofu and then spread out into broad electrical attacks. Kakashi frowned slightly. Sacrificing speed for power and flexibility felt risky. Speed mattered. Most shinobi weren't slow, and defenders were the minority. Mu Yue didn't argue. Instead, he grabbed Kakashi, and with a burst of lightning breathing, he pushed Kakashi through an experience of extreme speed. Was that fast enough? Could you react? Mu Yue asked after setting him down. Kakashi understood. Mu Yue had compensated for the technique's lower built-in speed by using his own lightning-fast motion. He'd tailored the ninjutsu to match his style, enough speed when needed, with the added power and flexibility. The thought that Mu Yue had already considered Kakashi's needs warmed him a little. He felt oddly flattered. He hadn't been Mu Yue's student even half a month, and Mu Yue was thinking this carefully on his behalf. After training, Mu Yue presented Kakashi with a piece of calligraphy he had written. A system-style notice appeared in Kakashi's head as if from nowhere. You gifted your disciple a handwritten calligraphy. Due to the disciple's immense gratitude, the effect was a critical hit. Reward received. Earth Release Chakra Nature Transformation, Proficient Level. Having grown closer to Mu Yue, saved by him once, taught Purple Lightning, and now receiving his calligraphy, Kakashi triggered a favorable reward. Mu Yue looked pleased, smiling like a farmer with a bountiful harvest. A critical interaction like that meant their bond was improving quickly. In the afternoon, Mu Yue led his disciples to the Hokage building. There was still chakra to be earned. 180. Plan to explode. Are there any D-rank missions available? Mu Yue asked the registration ninja after leading his students into the Hokage building's mission hall. D-rank jobs were still useful for grinding chakra. 10 of them could net nearly 450 points or so, he figured. Huh, Teacher Mu Yue, aren't we doing a C-rank mission today? Obito blurted. One day they were risking their lives fighting ninja from other villages. The next they were looking for lost cats, catching dogs, or picking up trash. The contrast felt absurd to him. Did you forget what day tomorrow is? If we take an out-of-village mission now, Metkai will have to celebrate his birthday away from the village, Mu Yue said, tapping Obito on the head. He deliberately didn't reuse the same trick he'd used with Shisui. Doing the same thing twice would seem lazy. He'd already told his students that Metkai's birthday was coming up and that they'd gather together to celebrate. Oh, right. Metkai's birthday. I've been so busy I lost track, Obito admitted, scratching his head with a goofy grin. Don't worry. If Teacher Mu Yue hadn't reminded me, I'd have forgotten too, Metkai said, stroking his chin. They had been busy lately. Training, back-to-back missions, and then protecting clients on out-of-village jobs. Kakashi, watching Mu Yue and his two disciples, felt there was something he didn't fully understand about their relationship. After such a short time as Mu Yue's students, they seemed unusually close. Then he remembered. Mu Yue taught at the Ninja Academy, and Obito and Metkai had been students there. That explained some of their familiarity. Yes, there are, the registration ninja replied, opening the mission scroll so Mu Yue could pick. D-rank missions were largely interchangeable, so Mu Yue selected 5 at random and set out with his students. For some reason, Obito and Kakashi were especially competitive that day. They normally didn't get along, but today their rivalry was amped up and Metkai got pulled into it as well. The 3 of them tore through the 5 missions, racing to see who could finish fastest and complete the most tasks. Their energy made the work fly by. When Mu Yue checked the payouts, though, he noticed a problem. The rewards had decreased. The first mission's payout was about normal, around 45 chakra points split between the 3 of them, but by the 3rd mission, the total had fallen to just over 30 points, and the 5th mission paid exactly 30. Difficulty usually determined rewards, but past experience told Mu Yue D-rank payouts shouldn't fluctuate so much. He formed a hypothesis. The system was judging that D-rank missions were becoming less useful for his students' growth, so it lowered the rewards. It wasn't a baseless idea. The system clearly prioritized disciples' progress. Stage rewards were tied to increases in strength, and training missions paid more if a student improved substantially during the assignment. Given Obito and Metkai's current level, D-rank jobs might help at first with procedure and teamwork, but after dozens of repeats, they would mean far less. To test the idea, Mu Yue took 5 more D-rank missions. The rewards fell further. The 10th mission paid only a little over 20 chakra points for the 3 of them combined. Adding up all 10 jobs, Mu Yue found they'd earned a touch over 300 points total. Which wasn't terrible. A single large class gave about 40, but it was clearly less than before. From now on, I'll cut back on D-ranks and spend more time on other missions and training, Mu Yue decided. Keeping a steady income of 300 chakra points was acceptable, but if the trend continued, a few more rounds might yield nothing at all. After submitting the missions, Mu Yue took his students home for dinner. Obito couldn't help noticing the same familiar face at Mu Yue's house again, Minato Namikaze, who bore a strong resemblance to Mu Yue. He was there as last time, helping out and taking food to go. Teacher Mu Yue, what's your relationship with that Jonin Minato? It feels like he comes to your house for food every day, Obito asked. He felt something odd but couldn't put his finger on it. Even if they were neighbors, eating together daily would be strange, let alone Minato taking food to go. We're very good friends. Maybe a mentor-mentee sort of thing, Mu Yue answered after a moment. He teaches me sealing techniques, and I teach him how to cook. We used to eat together more often, and sometimes he'd cook for me, but he's been busy lately, so we don't sit down together much. So he's so busy, yet he still brings food away? Kakashi found that illogical. Of course, Teacher Mu Yue's cooking is too good. If he can, even with no time to sit and eat, he'll take it to go, Obito said, nodding as if that explained everything. Kakashi wanted to argue, but thinking back to Mu Yue's food, it didn't seem entirely unreasonable. Tomorrow morning we'll do normal training. The afternoon and evening are yours to arrange, Mu Yue told them the next day after some post-dinner conversation. As the students got ready to leave, Mu Yue called out to Metkai. Metkai, wait a moment. Metkai turned back and sat down obediently. I'll walk back with you. I have something I need to discuss with your father, Mu Yue said with a smile after collecting his things. Great. My father should be home now, Metkai replied, glad. He'd been wondering if Mu Yue's visit was about training or the birthday, but he hadn't expected it to involve his father. Night had fallen fully by then. The further they walked toward Metkai's house, the quieter it became. The village sounds faded and the noises of nature took over. The house itself was in a secluded spot. I'm home, Metkai called as he opened the door. Teacher Mu Yue's here too. He has something to talk to you about. Oh, Teacher Mu Yue is here? I'll brew some tea, Metkai said, stepping out to greet them. No trouble, please. I just came to speak with Metkai. I won't stay long, Mu Yue replied with a smile. Even so, Metkai insisted on boiling the water and making tea. Once everyone was settled, Mu Yue didn't waste time. Metkai, would you like to become a higher-ranking ninja? He asked directly. Metkai looked up at him, the question hanging in the room.